Bang. So, Camel, we finally got together, dude. I really
Oh,
do.
three.
Yeah, I apologize about last time. That was unbelievable. The timing was
Oh, no need to apologize, mate.
impeccable. I couldn't have timed it better, really. But we've got here. How are you, buddy?
Yeah, I'm very well, thanks, mate. How are you?
Yeah, really good, really good. As you know, it's a bit of a busy time of year for me, and now it's getting colder. It's even worse.
Yep,
Um,
yeah.
phone's been pretty hot, but I've been out this morning. But yeah, it's all good. I can't grumble. How's Mrs. Camel?
Yeah, she's fine. She's here, there, and everywhere. She's been doing wife stuff, shopping and Christmas presents and meeting the family and all of that stuff. So
Oh, excellent. Yeah, the old Christmas is just around the corner, isn't it?
yeah, we're pretty ahead of schedule this year, to be fair. I think we're almost done. So
Oh, that's really cool. We're
yeah.
not I don't think really we're near it. We've got a grandson this year, so we're really excited.
Oh, nice. Is that the
Yeah,
first Christmas with grandson?
it is. Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
It's the
nice.
yeah, it's the first Christmas with a youngster for what? 17 years under four.
Oh, wow.
So it's quite exciting to be fair.
Yeah, the magic will be back.
Oh, mate, yeah, definitely. Tomorrow we're gonna try and make up a bit of a or start the what we used to do with our kids when they were young, making it a little bit magical. Yeah, it's quite exciting. It's lovely,
Sounds good, mate. Sounds good.
really cool. Winston, got to ask how Winston is.
Yeah, he's fine. Yeah, can't complain, mate. Same old, same old.
Yeah, and have you still got the greyhound or whippet or whatever?
That's my mum's whippet. Yeah, my
All
mum's.
right.
Yeah, he's fine as well. Yeah, I have. He's called Julio. I look after him when mum goes to see family in London or
Oh,
whatever.
nice.
Yeah. So
Cool. Buddy, what the hell's going on? So much gone on since we last spoke.
yeah, I was thinking it's probably quite good that we didn't get to do part three last time because
Yes,
since then an awful lot has happened. So we've probably got a lot more to talk about this time.
absolutely. And probably this could turn into like every couple of months, I reckon, with the way
Yeah,
way things are going.
yeah, yeah.
I just want to kick off, mate, if it's okay with you. I had a couple of questions which I don't think we addressed,
Okay, yeah, go
which
for
were
it.
directed for you,
Okay.
unless you can. Oh, you might have done this one. Someone asked. Well, I think this come in after part one, but I didn't do it in part two. I'm not sure, but you can let me know. Diego, it's from a guy called Diego. It may ring a bell. You might have addressed it, but he says, "Great conversation, guys. This was after part one about other coins. Hello, Mrs. CPM. How are you? Oh, Mrs. CPM's come home. Cool, but she's fit and healthy, which is really cool.
Cool.
We'll love to hear Camel's opinion about Monero. Did you do that one?
I didn't do that one. No.
No, because of its privacy. Doesn't he see value in that as a way out? Is the first question. On
Yeah.
big Bitcoin transitions can be followed. Monero's not. Don't know what he
Okay.
means by that. So I don't know if you can answer that if you want to answer it.
Yeah, I feel more or less the same way about all privacy coins, and that is, I feel like they don't do it for me personally, right?
Yeah.
I understand that people say, yeah, well, they got superior privacy to Bitcoin, for example, but if you go back and look at history, there's been a lot of pressure from the EU and the UN and stuff to make these things illegal. Could they really be stopped? I don't know, probably not, but they're certainly not as censorship resistant as Bitcoin is. And as somebody, I appreciate a lot of people don't have this kind of technical know-how,
Yeah.
but I do personally possess the know-how to acquire, let's say, no KYC Bitcoin and mix it sufficiently so that you don't know whether I've got it or lost it in a boating accident. So for me personally, I just prefer Bitcoin. I have no problem with Bitcoin. And I know a lot of people say, yeah, well, they can trace everything. It's not entirely true. They definitely, if you know what you're doing, it's not entirely true. I don't like the price action, particularly of a lot of those privacy coins. And I don't like the way that the EU and the UN and things like that seem to be quite vocal in saying that they're not going to allow them and not going to tolerate them. Again, could they stop them permanently? I don't know. I don't know. But I am a Bitcoin person and I remain a Bitcoin person.
Mm. Well, yeah, that surprises me.
Does it?
No, not at all.
Oh,
No, sorry, mate. I was being sarcastic.
yeah, yeah. I wondered if you were. Then I was like,
Yeah,
huh?
yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. um, right. Thank you very much for that. And every cloud sent. Oh, this one's quite a long one, mate. If that's okay.
Go for it. Go for it.
Love this. You two are great together. Oh, that's really cool. Pleased to hear you're going to do more, which is really cool. I have a couple of questions for Camel. If you thought they may be interesting to fit into a future chat sometime, CPM, ignore me if already covered. I don't think so. Anyway, number one, I really appreciate the logical thoughts regarding the value of holding Bitcoin for insurance. I've recently started accumulating a small amount myself. Fair play, as you know. But here's the question.
Yep.
Could they just ban Bitcoin in the UK like they did in China? Or does the Bitcoin system offer itself protection against that?
Yeah, they could definitely ban it, right? They could ban it anywhere, and they've done that in China. But they've also banned things like alcohol in the past, and alcohol consumption went up. Drugs remain illegal in the UK, yet they're absolutely everywhere in every major city and every pub you go into in the evening. You know, prohibition doesn't work. And going back to Bitcoin, they've proven that in China, right? They made Bitcoin illegal in China, and the usage like triples in 2 or 3 years since then. They made mining illegal, and within something ridiculous like 4-5 months after they made mining illegal, over 20% of the hash rate came out of China.
Yeah.
So I mean, you know, good luck banning it. Yeah, you could make it illegal. Yeah, that might make it what's the word, like frustrating or annoying to hold. But again, there are ways around this. There are absolutely ways around this. And even things like a simple VPN, which pretty much everyone should have if you're going to be in crypto, and it costs £2 a month or less. In some cases, a VPN can skirt the navigations and get you to get hold of Bitcoin just as easily as buying it, you know, legitimately from a UK exchange. So it's just never going to work. And I think the UK is a country or a nation that it doesn't really need to worry so much about this as a threat, because London have been quite vocal about embracing this and becoming a hub for crypto. So I don't think it's going to affect us. And even if it did, right, like there's a bunch of stuff in this country that's illegal and it's still everywhere. So
for sure.
Ultimately, prohibition doesn't work, right?
No, it doesn't. And I don't know about you, but I often feel that maybe this doesn't quite apply now. Now we're a little way down the line, but I'm sure a lot of it was just not quite so much propaganda, but just stuff put out there to like try and put people off getting into it, and almost like a massive stalling mechanism. While these different governments were getting their head around what the hell's going on. Oh, sorry, I've just been interrupted by a cake.
Oh, very nice.
A homemade cake coming into where I'm sitting. So thank you very much.
Very nice.
Thank you.
What sort of cake is it?
It's a homemade like little fairy cake.
Lovely.
Yeah, it's so cool. Absolutely cool. My wife's sister makes them, and we always like it when Auntie comes around. It's really cool. Yeah, sorry, mate. I always wonder whether it, you know, while all these governments and the industries trying to get their head around what's happening, what's going to be happening in the future, then they put out this stuff just to put people off so they can keep that control factor going.
Yeah, I mean, I think they probably would like to ban it, but at the same time, if you ban something, it just kind of signals to the people, doesn't it? That, oh, they don't want us to have this, and there must be a reason for that. So, and like I say, it's not just China. We've seen it in other countries as well, where they banned it and usage just goes through the roof, because like I said, it's a signal from the government that says we don't want you to have sound money, right? So and you know, at the end of the day, humans will be humans, and if you incentivize, if you give a human a reason to accomplish something, it will accomplish it, right? So even if you make it illegal, if that human decides it wants Bitcoin, it will get Bitcoin, right?
100%.
And nobody, remember, can stop a peer-to-peer transaction.
No.
You know, even if they want to. And I will say this, actually, this is an important point. If you're going to hold Bitcoin, hold it on a cold wallet, hold your own keys, because if it's held on an exchange, then they could actually take it, right?
100%.
But if you hold it on a cold wallet, then, well, I lost my keys, right?
Yeah.
What are you going to do?
Yeah. What Bitcoin?
Yeah. What Bitcoin? Exactly.
That's great. Thank you very much. And number 2 question was, I hear Camel often mention that his goal is to accumulate as much Bitcoin as possible. However, does he ever trade some of his Bitcoin for profit as he does other markets? Hope that makes sense.
Yeah, I trade in and out of Bitcoin. but typically, I mean, it's difficult to answer really in
of course
one sentence. In one sentence, I mean, I think I've shown this on the channel. I accumulate a core position out of the 4-year cycle low, and that core position is not getting touched until I think the macro top is in, whether that comes early, like I've been speculating it might, or whether that comes late, like it normally does in the 4-year cycle. The plan will be to lighten up for sure, because if this asset is going to go down 50+%, then why do I want to weather that, right? And I know this is not a popular opinion in the Bitcoin community, because you get this thing of we're never selling, but never selling in a market that last bear market went down 70-ish%, and the bear market before went down 84%. You have the opportunity to turn one Bitcoin into 9 or 10 if you play that cycle correctly in a 12-month period, by the way. In a 12-month period, if you sold one Bitcoin at the top, you could likely buy somewhere between 5 and 10 back 12 months later. So as a trader, as someone that's confident in his ability to sell and buy back later, then I'm going to be lightening my position for sure. Is it wise to have some portion of Bitcoin that you keep as insurance, as a just in case? Maybe, each to their own to decide that. And then supplemental trades along the way. Obviously, I take some of those as well. And the point of that is just to grow the overall account. And then once the account gets to a certain size, I typically like to empty some of that account into hard assets, whether that's your house or whether that is gold or whether that is some stocks, whatever it is, right? And just kind of accumulate assets over time.
Sure, that's fascinating. This is what Bob Lucas channel's all about. Of course, that 4-year cycle, isn't it?
Yep.
As well. And he often talks about, starting the cycle off, looking at over that 4-year cycle. I'm a bit naive with all this, but he would try and transfer that amount of Bitcoin by doing what you're saying into more Bitcoin through that cycle. If that makes sense. That's sort of a bit of a crude way of putting it, but it makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing is, I think a lot of people underestimate, right? Everyone wants more Bitcoin, right? So whether you've got 0.1 Bitcoin and you want half, or whether you've got half and you want a whole Bitcoin, whether you've got 1 and you want 10, everyone ultimately wants more Bitcoin.
Yeah.
But if you're never going to sell it, okay, and to be clear, this is not me saying sell it and then spend the fiat. Okay, because if you're still thinking in fiat, then you've kind of not understood this thing in the first place.
Yeah.
But if you're never going to take some profit, then the number of Bitcoin you have is going to stay the same, right? Or you're going to have to just keep sort of buying more and more as it gets more and more expensive. And like I said, because this asset is so volatile, because it's going to draw down 50+% in a bear market, then you're leaving huge amounts of gains on the table if you don't take some off. Right. But if you take some off and it crashes 70%, well, now you can buy an awful lot more back and do that 2 or 3 times. And you'll be surprised how much Bitcoin you've got. Probably a lot more than anyone could ever hope to accumulate through taking their paycheck and putting some of it into Bitcoin. Right.
Yeah, it makes total sense. It took me a while to understand that one, Camel, really, because probably, I don't know, you get stuck in a bit of fear, really. If like for me personally, I'm 2 years in. Almost, and I suppose it's that educational run that I bang on about all the time. Is keep educating, until we get confident enough to understand what you preach and teach all the time about these cycles.
Yeah,
and then I've actually worked out exactly what, not in a true professional technical sense of the way you put it across, but I've just sort of made sure that I've tried to accumulate enough Bitcoin in this down cycle so that I can probably allocate a bit that I can sell off when I need to, and hopefully keep or convert it into something just a sound. Not quite sure what that will be, but keep some insurance as well, just in case. So I actually get it, but this is a first time through these cycles for me, so it's a little bit it's really. There's so much to understand, isn't there? So much.
Yeah. I mean, and to put this into context, right, I have a friend who bought somewhere in the 2018, 2019 range, right? And then Bitcoin runs up to an all-time high of $69,000.
Sure.
And my friend missed the top by almost 30K, right? So a high of $69K, and he sold at around 40K. So he missed the top by 30K. And he still managed to end up buying close to the bear market lows, close to that 4-year cycle low, and end up with 2.5 or 2.7 times the Bitcoin that he started with if he'd have just held all the way through. right?
Absolutely.
So it goes to show that everyone I think is like, oh, well, what if I sell at 100K and it goes to 150, right? Or what if blah, blah, blah. But so long as you're out, most of the way through the cycle, so long as you can take the meat out of the move, it doesn't matter about whether you exit right at the top or get back in right at the bottom. So long as you can, take a chunk out, and you can always hold some for the long term, right? You can always have a bag that you're never going to sell. But like I say, it goes to show, because he missed the top by 30K, right?
Yeah.
Almost half the move.
Yeah.
From the bear market, excuse me, from the all-time high to the bear market low. He sold almost halfway through that, right?
Yeah.
And he still managed to add 2.5 times the Bitcoin that he had. So it is worth having that in your mind. And the human emotion and the human psyche will play against you in trading, right? Everything that is innate and intuitive is going to lose you money. So you have to retrain your brain. There'll be this thing of like, well, if I just hold it and it goes to 300K, I'll have X amount. And there's all of that. But, the cycles are the cycles. The 4-year cycle low will show up because that's what they do. And if you can just train yourself to take some, then the next time around, you'll have more confidence to take more. And eventually you get to the point where you don't care, right? It's just the chart is the chart. And are you here to make more Bitcoin, or are you here to just hold the thing? Also, there's nothing wrong with holding, right? If you've got plenty of liquidity, for example, if you earn a bunch of money, or you don't need the money, or you've already got a massive portfolio and you just think, I just want to hold one Bitcoin and hand it down to my grandchildren. There's nothing wrong with that either, right? Like when I say this, it comes from the perspective of a trader. So as a trader, I want to capture the bulk of the move, right? But if you're the sort of person that just bought a whole Bitcoin and thinks I'm going to keep that forever, then there's nothing wrong with that. So long as you don't deviate from your plan, have a plan, stick to it.
Sorry.
Eating the cake.
Oh, that's terrible, isn't it?
No worries at all.
Oh, that's great. Thank you very much. I'll quickly swallow that. Thanks again to you both. Getting great value from these talks. This is really cool to hear. And it's also fun listening between two good guys. That's cool. That's every cloud anyway. So at least I've hung on to those for ages. So I can.
Yeah, he's been waiting a while, I think. Bless him.
Definitely. Well, dude, how do you want to play this one? Do you want to just go through? I never want it to come across as I'm just picking your brains all the way through it, because I'm sure you get a bit fed up with it all.
No, not at all. I'm pretty easy. I've got some rum. I'm just chilling. I just view it as like a conversation in the pub sometimes, really.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, mate. Since we last spoke.
Yeah.
Hell of a lot's happened.
It has.
I think it's pretty evident. And I would just want to say your channel is growing so quickly at the moment now, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm almost at 3,000 subscribers, which is pretty crazy.
It is crazy because, like, at the beginning of the year, I don't think you turned 500-600, something like that.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I remember it took me close to a year to get 500 subscribers, and now I'm averaging around 500 every 28 days.
Absolutely.
So to go from 500 in a year to 500 in a month, that's pretty wild to me.
Yeah, which in its own right, I look at that as, wow, the interest in Bitcoin is really flying now. When you see channels like yourself grow so quickly because people are craving that information.
Yeah, it's all the big channels as well are gaining a lot of subscribers on a daily basis. So there's obviously a lot of new people coming into the space. Yeah,
and what I love, again, I'm not going to blow smoke up your backside, but I probably will. What I love about your channel is I still cannot. No, I don't want to say cannot believe how accurate with the simplicity of how you put across what you do for a living to recognize trends and everything is amazingly simple and yet so accurate. And quite often we'll talk about Friday's video in a minute, if that's okay.
Yeah, sure.
That threw me a curveball while I was driving.
Was that the gold one? Is that the gold one?
And silver one, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought, my instant, I'm not going to swear, I'll try and be good. My instant reaction was, oh, for God's sake, where is he going with this now? I thought I'd just settled in what I was going to do over the next year.
Yeah.
Now you've thrown this curveball in for me to think about,
yeah.
What if this happens? Or what's the possibility of this? But that's what I love about the channel. And I was saying to Cobra Stacker, I think it was yesterday, because I said to him, have you listened to Camel's silver and gold. Because you tagged him in as well, I think.
Yeah, I did. I tagged and
And
365 as well, I
365,
think. Yeah.
yeah. And he said no. And I said, do yourself a favor, because he was getting ready for his auction last
Yeah.
night. I said, do yourself a favor, have a listen. He said, oh, right, okay, yeah. Anyway, he rang me back about 10 minutes later. He went, oh, my King God.
Did he?
Yeah. He said, oh, we've got to change our philosophies again. And I said, that's the beauty of your channel. That's what I love about your channel is it isn't a one system. This is how it's going to be. Plod, 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 plod. It's think. What about this? What about that? How's this working? This is looking like this could happen. Nothing ever done. And I love it, mate. I absolutely love it.
Yeah, that's honestly all trading is, right? It's basically you come up with an idea, and then that idea is right until it's proven wrong. And gold is, as I was saying in that video, and I think I was mentioning the same thing in today's video as well. Like, my expectation has been that, historically speaking, gold goes down when the stock market goes up. And then when the stock market is crashing and we enter a recession, gold does pretty well, right? That's historically the sort of inverse correlation that you would expect to see. Yep. And so because the stock market is clearly wanting all-time highs, I mean, we're just a few percentage points away now from all-time highs. That's been the thesis. And the thesis was, therefore, that gold would suffer in the short to medium term. And then we would get that inversion, right? Then we would finally get the stocks come off and it would be gold's time to shine. And of course, silver. But this is the thing about, if you're going to be a trader, you have to be willing to say, well, I had an idea and the market has showed me something different. So that was my idea, right? That gold wasn't going to do that well. But if gold is about to break to new all-time highs, and we just secured a new monthly all-time high close, we just secured a new weekly all-time high close. Yeah. So, I mean, what am I going to do? I got two choices here, right? I can either be dogmatic and say, nah, it's going to go down. But then I'm just going to end up with egg on my face as gold. It might just keep going up. And what am I going to do? At what point am I going to say, no, it's going to roll over? Oh, you know what I mean? Like, if the chart's going to go up, then I want to be on the right side. It's not about being right or wrong. It's not about getting my ego in the way. It's just, I thought it was going to go down. If it's going up, well, fine. Like, I'll change my opinion. Now I think we're going up, right? So you got to be willing to adapt. You got to be fluid and flexible. And yeah, that's pretty much all it is, right? If we're going to break out, then I want to be long. I don't want to be dogmatic and worried about whether I'm right or not. I just want to be on the right side of the market.
Yeah, but and that's the way it comes across, and which is what I love, because it totally, well, for me personally, I can't talk for anyone else. It makes me think, and it gets me to stop me getting into a rut of this is how this is going to be, for my stupid logical life that I've lived. The investment world is I don't know, as you would say so many times, it can change daily. Yeah. Everything can change. The narrative can change. Who's really in control of it? But it's certainly not me. So that's what I love about it. And when I listen to that video, I just like, oh, for God's sake, man! Now I've got to reposition what I'm thinking, and try and capitalize on something that I wasn't really thinking about. But that's the beauty of your channel, and I can't thank you enough, dude. I really can't.
Yeah, no worries. I mean, like I say, if you can learn this one skill, right? If you can learn it, and this not you personally, this is anyone that's going to be either a trader or an investor. If you can learn this one skill to accept you don't know what's going to happen, you have no control over it, and you can either worry and spend your time and energy about trying to be right all the time or not being wrong, or you can just look at the chart and say, what's it doing? Okay. And it's actually quite liberating. Once you can get over the fact you don't need to be right, once you can get over the fact that you don't have to know anything, right? You can just let the chart tell you what's going to happen. And once you've, put that aside, then you're free to just take the trends as they come. And like I said, I thought gold and silver had another pullback in, and they still might CPM. This is the beauty of it, right? Yeah. You have to be fluid enough that right now I've changed from, I think we're going down, to, all right, guess we're going up. But there's still a very, very, very good chance that we go up a little bit and then it turns out to be a trap and we go much lower. Sure. And what that will look like is me saying, I think we're going down. And then this Friday and Saturday, I've been saying, no, I was wrong. I think we're going up. And I am fully prepared in a week, 2 weeks to turn around and say, I was wrong again, guys. I was wrong. We're going down, right? Yeah. So the point is nobody knows, right? It doesn't matter, right or wrong, doesn't matter. Just let the chart tell you what's going on. But we do know for sure, as I said over the weekend and yesterday, that there's no way we make a run to 3K without first going through the all-time high, right? How do we possibly get to higher numbers without cracking that all-time high? So if we crack the all-time high, I want to be long there, and it is what it is.
Yeah, it's amazing how a simple line on a chart.
Yeah, one line. That's all you need.
it's that now I even hear myself when I'm chatting to Cobra, and he says, "Oh, what's going on?" I say, "Oh, yeah, I'm interested in it." I said, "Silver's making a bit of a move, but I'm going to be a little bit hesitant because it hasn't hit my trend line. It could bounce back."
Yep.
And if it goes through, and listen to this, you're hopefully you'll be impressed with this, but I'll probably butcher it. I said, but it's got to go through, and then we've got to see if it closes higher, and then we'll just wait 24 hours.
Yeah,
and just see what it ends, and then see where it goes. And I've listened. I sit and I think, oh my God. And I've watched that happen a few times now.
Yeah.
And I think, oh my God, it makes sense. It makes it, that works. That works because it gives me confidence.
Yeah.
And a lot of the time, especially with silver and gold, or all of it really, to be fair, is that I'm worrying that all the time. I'm constantly worrying about, oh, I should do it now. I should do it now. But no, you've taught me to just wait and get some confidence in watching what's going on.
Yeah.
And that's made a massive difference between me jumping in and jumping out and thinking, oh shit, done it wrong again. Yeah. Why didn't I do that? Why didn't I wait? And now I'll be honest with you, I don't even react to it. I will now test and just see if it happens, just to make my confidence get better, to just say, okay, yeah, I should have got in there. Now I know, and I can be a little bit more confident the next time or whatever, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Rather than panic and go, oh, I need to get in, and then watch it all, lose 20 quid, 30 quid. And you think, oh, shit, yeah, Camel did say just wait.
I mean, you're speaking like a pro now, mate, because all of that stuff in the middle of the day catches the emotional people out, right?
Yeah.
You're like, oh, is this thing going to go? And then, the New York opens up and you see all this big green candles and you're like, oh God, here we go. I got to get in. And then we've all been there, right? In fact, we call it amateur hour. The first hour of the trading session is amateur hour because nobody knows what's going to happen, right?
No.
You see these big green or big red candles and you think, oh no, we're gonna crash, or oh no, like I need to hop in here. And then almost all of those first hourly moves are complete BS, right? Yeah. And it all comes down to that daily close, like you were saying. And the reason for that is the price level that the market has decided to close the day out. Everything that happens in the daytime is irrelevant, right? That's just how many buyers showed up versus how many sellers or whatever. But the level at which we close decides whether we have a change in structure, decides whether the market has accepted. Are we now breaking out? Are we now looking to change trend? Yeah. And, that's why the daily close is so important. And this is also a cheat code for new investors and new traders, right? Because a lot of people will fall into this mistake of looking at all those ups and downs in the day and big green candles, I need to buy, or, oh no, now I'm in a loss and blah, 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 blah. If you can train your mind to not even look at the chart until the last half hour of the day. Yeah. And then in the last half hour, you can say to yourself, is this likely to close above that line or below it? Yeah. And you've got your answer then. If it's going to close outside, if you're confident, you can take the trade, right? And if not, well, you've saved yourself all the hassle and emotional turmoil of watching everything ping around all day. Yeah. And all of that stuff in the day is no man's land, right? It doesn't matter.
It's crazy. That trend is your friend, trend line.
Yeah.
It's just, and it's just discipline. It's just pure discipline. And the more, this is my first sort of cycle of bears and bulls, so I'm still get a little bit excited. Sometimes I can't even believe that maybe the possibility of what I've done during the bear market is going to pay me off. I'm still trying to get over that emotion because I haven't been through it before. But those stupid simple lines,
I tell you what, a lot of people I get people throw a lot of shade my way. They go, there's no way you're a trader. Like, that's all you do, draw one line. Like, nah, you're a noob. There's no way. There's no way. Like, you have to, you must be lying, right? They don't realize to get to this one trend line. I first went through dozens of indicators, moving averages. I had the most complex charts in the early part of my career, and the longer the time went on, the more things I stripped from the chart. And I just realized I don't want things that are derived from price. I don't want indicators. I don't want any of that. I just want price, right?
Yeah.
And the line isn't so much a magical line as it's just one area on the chart that gives me somewhere to manage my risk around, right? So above that line, okay, we're long, and below that line, something's wrong.
Yeah.
Right. It doesn't have to be super complicated. The skill is in managing the risk. The skill is in having the discipline to stick to it. The skill is in not pulling the buy button before we've actually closed the candle outside. Right.
Yeah.
That's what takes the skill. It's not anyone could draw a line. That line doesn't mean anything. But yeah, it's funny. And I always think as well, you know, even in sports like boxing or something, the best boxers have the jab cross nailed, right? They have good footwork. That's it. They don't throw like jumping, spinning punches. They don't try, you know what I mean? They've got really, really solid base. That's what they do. They're hard to off balance. They've got really good footwork and timing. And the basic stuff is what wins fights. And it's the same for trading. You know, the basic stuff is how you make money.
Yeah. And they train and perfect the simplicity.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. Because if it's not simple, it's inefficient, right?
Yeah.
And you need the efficiency.
Yeah. I mate many a time I've said to Cobra, God, I wish I was 24 again.
Don't we all, mate?
The problem is you wouldn't have been born probably, or you maybe might have been just in your nappies or whatever if I was 24.
Yeah,
but no, it's really funny, isn't it? It's really funny. I love it. I would definitely anyone new that's going to watch this, just watch Camel Finance's channel, because if you can get over your own emotions eventually and just keep it nice and simple, which Camel does, and I keep saying it on my channel, you do it free, dude, which is unbelievable, absolutely unbelievable. That what I've learned has been totally free. Maybe if I was a bit younger, I might want to get into it a little bit more, but it's amazing. I've learned so much, so thank you yet again.
No problem at all. I've had a lot of people reach out to me in the last few months actually to say that similar things, that they really appreciate it, and it feels really good, because that's kind of why I do it. There's a selfish motivation as well, right? Because this is somewhat like a legacy, if you want, for lack of a better word. Like, I like the idea of, you know, if I can make some good calls, then they can remember Camel made some good calls. So there's somewhat of a selfish motivation there as well. But ultimately, I do like to help people, and it's really nice to know people have, you know, made some good gains this year and learned some stuff. And like I say, you know me long enough to know I don't shill the altcoins. I don't shill, you know, I don't say, oh, come on, you can trade like me. Click this link to an exchange and leverage up 125 times. You know, I don't do any of that. I just say, look, you know, with discipline and patience and do your own research and make your own decisions, you can have a chance here as well, right? So, and I really like what we've built as a community. It's just been a really humbling experience, to be honest. And there's some great thinkers in my comment section as well. There's some really, really great thinkers. And I can tell that because, you know, they ask questions and I think, oh, there's no way someone could have asked that question if they didn't have a lot of experience in the markets, or there's no way that somebody could have even spotted that I made an error there if they weren't really switched on and knew what they were talking about. Right. But there's all ranges, right? There's new people that just want to learn and just want to study, all the way right through to, there's some real veterans in the chat as well. I can think of a couple of names that come to mind right now that they probably have a decade or more experience in markets. And it's great that they're there as well, because they don't let me say anything BS, right? Or they don't let me make any mistakes. If I say something, they'll be straight there to say, whoa, Camel, what about this? And then I'm like, you know what? Yeah, you're right. So the community is absolutely amazing. And I just hope that it can keep growing, and I hope that, more importantly, I hope we can keep the quality over the quantity. That's what I really hope.
Sure. Okay, well, that's going to lead me on to a nice question for you. Where do you see how your channel, how your community that you're building, how the community that's building, how there's lots of questions in this one, really. How the whole investment trading scene is going to go over the next maybe decade? Have you got any ideas of how do you have a look?
How my channel is going to be over the next decade, or
how your channel, how your channel's going to go? That I always get the feeling that your channel's going to be growing with how the world grows in the finance industry as well. So that's why I say, like, where do you see how do you see everything going over the next maybe decade?
To
Up
be
to
honest,
20?
I don't plan to change
You're not.
much. In fact, I don't plan to change anything. I kind of just plan to continue to document what I'm doing. And
Okay.
if for some reason, I don't know, let's say hypothetically we were to have some big great reset and now everything is CBDC based, then I'll be forced to adapt to whatever the new system is, right?
Sure.
So then I would, in that scenario, I would imagine that suddenly the channel takes a hard right-hand turn, and now we're going to have to talk about how to trade using CBDCs, or are we even allowed to trade using CBD? I don't know, whatever, right? Whatever. But if things keep going the way they're going, then I don't really need to, I don't feel the requirement to change much, right?
Sure.
I just want to kind of continue to show that this can be done, and you don't have to pay for courses. You don't have to give someone, $1,000 a month for signals or some Discord group. You don't have to, you know what I mean? You don't have to click my referral link and put 125 times leverage on your Bitcoin position, right? I just preach the same thing, right? Draw a line, do some hard work, do the study, and be disciplined in yourself, right? And that's all I really look to build. At the same time, it's not an easy job, right? Like, if I might have made it look easy at times this year when I said, well, I think we're going to do this, and now we've done it. But, it could have just as easily have failed. And I've kind of shown that lately of gold, right? Like we were saying earlier, I thought gold was going to do one thing. I was wrong, right? So, and I might be wrong again in 2 weeks. As I said, we might start to go up and then roll over, and it is what it is. But ultimately, I just want to keep doing what I'm doing. I just feel like people deserve to have a perspective that shows you can do this, so long as you're not getting distracted and getting shilled things that you shouldn't be shilled, or it's unethical, I think, for me to start saying, buy my course for $1,000, right? I know there's people that will buy a course from me. I know, because people message me all the time. But it comes back to that same thing, doesn't it? If I'm really a trader, if I really know what I'm doing, why do I need to sell you a course?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Right. So I do this because I love it. I'm sure you can tell that by the way I speak about it, and the way I do everything that I do every day. And I spend all the hours that I do each day making a video, and I do it because I love it. And I do it because, like I said earlier, there's a selfish motivation there. I want to show the world that I've worked really hard to solve the hardest problem. And this is what I do. And this is what I love to do. And if I can help people to do well off the back of that, then that's ultimately, that's what life is about, right? You pass the knowledge down and you do what you can to help people.
Absolutely. And I think it's paying off for you in abundance.
It certainly seems to be that. It feels that way for sure. I'm really, really humbled and grateful for everything that's happened.
It's really cool. Mate, I've got another question as well for you.
Yep.
This goes back from your first video.
Okay.
How difficult is it for you to not express sorry, let me think of how to put this across. You're very professional in what you do.
Thank you.
Obviously. How much, or do you have to hold back the deeper thoughts that could be construed as conspiracy theories and all this sort of stuff?
Yeah, I do.
I thought that would make you laugh.
No. It's funny. Do you ask that because you can see hints of it come through? Is that why?
100%. Yeah, because the reason why I say that is because I love observing how people are, and how they react, and part of that observation is when you see people's emotions through speech, and through thoughts, and I think, oh God, there's what are we? I don't know if I can say this or not. Are we seeing the true Camel Finance as the personality, or are we seeing the professional side of Camel Finance? And every now and then I get that hint of, oh, he wants to say so much more, and he could run into very much like your first videos.
Yeah.
How do you struggle that? Is that
I do and I don't. I do and I don't. Like I think initially when I first started the channel, I think I was going to go down that conspiracy route a lot more than I do these days. And what I've found is that if I want to help people, which is ultimately one of the main goals, right? The main goal is to show, like I said, you can trade, you can be profitable, right? Even though 70-80% of retail traders lose money, like I try to show you that you can do it, right? You can do it if you just have the discipline and you know what you're doing, right? But at the same time, if I want to help people, then Is it helpful to go hard down that conspiracy route? Well, in a way, yes. In a way, for sure. Because some people need waking up.
Yeah.
And some people need to know that perhaps certain authorities don't have your best interest at heart, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Perhaps some people need to know that, well, there's a reason that you didn't get taught finance at school. There's a reason you didn't get taught how to, start a business or be financially free or self-sovereign. There's a reason they leave that out of education.
Yeah.
There's a reason for a bunch of things, right? So in a way, that stuff does help some people, but in another way, it wasn't an active decision so much as it evolved the way it did because more people seem to find it beneficial to be taught how I trade or shown how I trade than me just telling you, hey, the government hates you and everything's going to be terrible and the world's going to end in a couple of years and blah, 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 blah. If you are the sort of mind that wants to find out about that stuff, there's so much of it available, right? Sure. But I think there's way less trading advice or, there's way less sort of real world traders that are just trying to show you how trading looks in the real world rather than try to shill you some stuff or sell you a course or whatever. I feel there's a gap in the market I can fill in the trading side of life versus, I'm not really adding anything to the conspiracy side of it. I would just be looking up conspiracies and then regurgitating it. It did cross my mind a while ago to maybe start another channel. I was thinking about starting a Reset Camel channel, but I'm just not convinced. I'm not convinced that's what I want to do. I'm not convinced that I want to spend my energy, focusing on the end of the world and how enslaved everyone's going to be and blah, blah, blah. I prefer to live in a much more optimistic state. And that's not to say that I bury my head in the sand, but it is to say life is better when you have a bit of hope and love in your heart versus when you're waiting for the sky to fall,
Amen to that.
So yeah. But I would say I don't filter my personality so much. It's just I set out with the mission to show you some trading stuff. Sure. And generally speaking, that's where the channel goes, right? In that trading direction.
Yeah. And this is why I am so pleased you jump on my channel every now and then, because I can get that dialogue with you that isn't like that pure Camel Finance. This is how you do this. This is how you do that. Da, 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 da. It's Camel Finance, the personality more than anything.
Yep.
And I think that's probably a nice outage for others to view.
Yep.
Without us sitting there getting drunk and slagging everyone off.
Yeah.
That's really tempting sometimes.
Yeah, but I mean, I think I don't know. It reminds me of this thing where have you ever heard where I don't know if there's a name for it, but if somebody has worked as say a policeman for a long time, right, a policeman's job is to deal with frankly the scum of the earth, right?
Yeah.
So all day they are getting called out to someone's house who beat their wife, or they find some bloke that robbed an old lady, or and it can be a lot worse than that, obviously, right? But the point is that the policeman starts off his career in the early time as I'm going to try to help society. I'm going to try to make this neighborhood safer. And after a decade of non-stop dealing with scum, it warps their perspective so that they just see all humans as filth, right? And it's not necessarily their fault, but it's just that's all they get to deal with. They don't get called to nice people. Like, oh, come and see this guy who's given all his money to charity, or come and see this guy who helped this person, right? Their job is to go and deal with the nasty side of life. And so after a decade of that, it often leads to very toxic people that hate the human race because all they've had to deal with their whole life is nastiness, right?
Yeah.
And so I kind of feel like it's the same thing with the conspiracy stuff. Like, yes, that stuff is true, but if you're going to spend all day, every day worrying about how much the government hates you and, all this horrible stuff that's going to happen in the future and blah, 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 then it is going to warp your perspective so that it makes you feel, or at least this is my experience, it made me feel like, it was a futile existence. Why even bother, right? We're all just going to be enslaved. We're all going to have to live in a social credit score system, blah, 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 blah. I like I said earlier, much prefer to live in an optimistic state. Love is king, as I know you've said to me before.
Yeah.
And, there's only so much time and energy you can give to this stuff, right? It's better off, I think, to enjoy your life, enjoy the short time that you're here.
Yeah, I can't agree with you more, really, to be honest. I think it's going down the psychological side of it. It just brings out so much inside of us when we go
Yep.
down a conspiracy thing.
Yep.
And if we get, and I really get what you're saying, because if we get so embroiled with, I hate the word really conspiracy, because it's actually, a lot of it is actual life.
Yeah.
It's actually life. It's not a conspiracy. It's just, it's out there. Things happen that, you know, we don't want to admit sometimes. But it's really cool coming to terms with it. Really cool, because if you recognize it, it's better than not recognizing it.
Yep, 100%.
At the same time, it's recognizing it and then putting it into the place it needs to be put in. So then you can move on in your life and just say, okay, I recognize that's a possibility, but how can I not let that affect me?
Yeah.
You know, and that's massively strong. And I think that's I think that's life in general. We either get to a stage in our existence while we're here on this lovely planet, where at some point we wake up a little bit. We just wake up and we go down those avenues. But thankfully, something within inside of us goes, okay, right, that's enough of that. Now, how are you going to fit this? How are you going to improve your life? Now you know it. Do you want to keep going down there and wasting whatever time learning about the same thing? Or do you want to improve your life by using it, but in the background, if that makes sense?
Yep.
By recognition and then moving on with your own life. I think that's really important. Really important. It's wonderful. As you always say, what a great time to be alive. And I know you say that in the context of your professional work that you do, but I think generally it's a great time to be alive.
Yeah, I do too. Completely agree. And do you know what I also feel like as well, right?
Yeah.
During the last, the event that spread around the world in 2019, 2020, and thereon, right? I feel like in a way, before then, some people needed waking up.
Yeah.
During the early stages of that, some people needed waking up.
Yeah.
Right. But my perspective now is, after all of that, right? After everything everyone went through, after everyone watching the news, and, you know, we all went through the same thing, right? In varying degrees, some people worse than others. But after all of that, if you're still asleep, then you're never waking up, right? People either got spiritually stronger or spiritually weaker during the last few years.
100%.
And at this point, if you're still asleep at this point, you know, you don't need somebody like Camel to come and tell you need to wake up and the government is going to do all this stuff, blah, blah, blah. Right. You either have figured this out for yourself. You've either been able to look around you and reason with your own, you know, observation, or you haven't, right? Or you buried your head in the sand and said, no, I don't see nothing. And if that's you, then, like I said, nothing a camel on the internet can say is going to help you out, right?
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's funny you should say that. I can't believe we're sort of going down this chat. Because
I didn't expect this either.
Because over the last, I would say, 3 or 4 days, I've been sitting here really questioning where I want to take my channel.
Yeah.
Really, because for me personally, it's always been about doing better for myself financially and securing stuff and understanding stuff. But I can't help coming back to, I don't want to marry any one idea.
Yeah.
I just don't want to anymore. And although I'm called Creative Precious Metals, and trust me, I love putting out like little displays like this and showing off a bit of creativeness, but I always think there's a deeper message somewhere that I just don't want to marry one idea. I want to keep exploring, and I want to try and promote self-teaching, improving on yourself. It's a fascinating journey for me personally. It really is, and I see that in your channel too.
Yeah.
I really do. So it's interesting times, buddy.
Yeah.
And I do.
Do you know what? Can I ask you a question, CPM?
Go on, yeah, you go for it, mate. It's always me asking stuff.
Because I know if I'm right, you've been down this rabbit hole of investing for the last 2 years, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
almost 2 years, yeah.
So are you prepared, or let me say it this way, do you think you're prepared for the next couple of years? And by that, what I really mean is, let's assume Bitcoin keeps doing Bitcoin things, right? Let's
Okay.
assume that gold and silver break out. And as somebody like yourself that holds gold, silver, and Bitcoin, right? Let's assume that, you've got into the market, because take it from me, right? I've been in good market times and I've been in bad market times, right? I know what it's like to see everything die, and I know what it's like to see these long extended bull market periods.
Sure.
I've been through a few Bitcoin cycles, and I've
Yeah.
traded gold and silver for pretty much the entirety of my career, right? And there's been times in my career when I've only traded gold and silver.
Sure.
And so I want to ask you, in your mind, are you prepared for the next few years? And if so, how? Or if there's some holes in your preparedness, are you aware of them? I want to know what you're thinking pertaining to, say, Bitcoin and gold and silver, or what you think is likely coming over the next few years, et cetera, et cetera.
Jesus Christ. I thought it was until Friday's Camel Finance video.
Okay, yeah, yeah,
Dude, do you know when you started to ask that question,
yeah.
that felt very emotional to me? Am I
Okay,
prepared?
yeah,
And I see that as a question that will ask lots of questions in my head, because instantly I will sit there and think, what am I preparing myself for
yeah,
initially? Okay, so from a preparation point of view, if we think Bitcoin could possibly, with all the narrative out there at the moment,
yeah,
I think from a Bitcoin point of view, I would say I've probably done 75% of what I could have possibly done
yeah,
to make sure I'm in a position from a Bitcoin point of view
yeah,
to capitalize on if Bitcoin does Bitcoin things.
yeah,
Okay. And the reason why I only say 75% is because I will always doubt myself. And I like to doubt myself because it keeps me on the edge,
yeah,
if that makes sense.
yeah, 100%.
Um, I don't think I can, without me going all in, yeah,
Yeah,
on Bitcoin wholly,
yeah,
I think I've done what I could have done given the circumstances that have allowed me to do it,
yeah,
within that short period of time. I'm really pleased that going back to March 21, March 22, time's flying, isn't it?
yeah,
Going back to March 22, when I had that conversation with my son, I said, shall we, shan't we, shall we, shan't we, shall we, shan't we? And we go, yeah, let's do it. And we just did it because there was a gut feeling inside of me that this was right this time. And I don't know what it was with inside of me. We've had this conversation and I thought, no, yeah, you got to believe in something, boy. You know,
yep,
everything you've been through in your life, this makes, for some, is so weird. This makes sense. If we're gonna
yep,
if we're gonna have a change and possibly have something that's going to work for the normal working person in their lives, there's not that many opportunities that come around like that. So I just had to do it. I had to do it.
yep,
Do I regret it? No.
no,
Am I? Do I take it for granted? Definitely not, because I still can't believe that from where I was and how much I put into it in the beginning of this year,
mm-hmm.
and to see it do Bitcoin things.
Yeah,
I still don't want to believe it, but I'm dead excited it's happening, if that makes
yeah,
sense. Because
yeah,
I've not experienced it. I said to my wife the other day, I said, I can't embrace what's going on. I really want to believe what's going on, but I can't believe it,
yeah,
if that makes sense.
yeah,
But,
yeah,
but when me and my son talk, we just sit there and go, yeah, isn't it good, Dad? And I say, yeah, mate, we could possibly have made the right call, you know?
yeah, yeah,
So from a preparation point of view, I believe I've put myself into a position now across my whole investment portfolio that I'm not just all in on one thing. I'm all in on a lot of things that I think will if the stars align and everything, And that's not just on 5 minutes. This is hundreds, if not 1,000 hours of boring research. And I still do it every day, dude. I still every day will listen to new channels, listen to new opinions, listen to the shit I don't want to listen to. And I still sit there and think, God, I am pleased I'm in this situation. And I'm going to say it because I believe in it. I hope I've done the right thing, but I actually feel like I have. So, yeah, I think I am in a good thing. Now, when you put out videos about gold and silver, now I'm not as heavy in gold and silver as I am Bitcoin. I think you know that. From a monetary point of view. But I'm in stocks and shares, and it's all proportionalized. This is where I have to challenge myself when I listen to what you're saying about the possibilities of gold and silver, and that's not a pressure from, I don't want you to look at that as a pressure. Oh my God, I've said something. Sorry, I'm a grown guy. I take full responsibility of what I do, and I've said in the future, I don't take your channel as gospel. I learn from it. It's because ultimately it's my responsibility to learn personally. So that's going to be a real challenge for me, because then I will sit there and think, what do I want to do? Do I want to what's the word? Get anxious about wanting to go down at my age now, wanting to make an extra few £100, maybe £1,000 or whatever, by moving everything around to make sure I'm stronger in gold or silver, or am I happy? And that's the big question I have to ask myself every day before I go to bed. Am I happy with what I'm doing? And probably that was a long-winded way of saying, I think I'm prepared. And another thing is, most important thing for me personally, again, you've educated me strongly on this, I'm prepared for what's not going to happen or what is going to happen. And that will sound absolutely stupid to most people, because it means, well, how do you know what's not going to happen? How do you know what's going to happen? No, listen to what I'm saying, not you. I'm prepared. Because what might happen might not happen. What doesn't happen may happen. So it's getting, okay, I'm in a position to react if I need to. At my stupid level. Does that make sense?
It does absolutely make sense, mate. The reason I ask, right? The reason I sort of put this out there as a thought-provoking exercise, is I'm acutely aware, because I've been there myself, right? That I know, for example, like the stacker community, 365, Cobra, Stacker, etc., right? And I'm not saying this is not directed at any one person in particular.
You go for it, mate.
I'm just telling you from my own experience, right? I've been here, I've made this mistake. And a lot of people will, for example, accumulate a bunch of gold and silver because they believe in the asset. They think that's the right thing to invest in, right? Then what happens is gold will, for example, let's assume it breaks out like I think it might, right? Gold runs to $3,000 an ounce, and then it starts to have a bit of a pullback. And what they'll do is they'll go, oh no, it's crashing, sell it all, right? When their original thesis for buying the gold and silver was probably something along the lines of, I'm going to buy this and I'm going to hold it until 2030 or 2033, right? But the moment a bit of volatility shows up, suddenly people get scared, they get emotional, blah, blah, blah. So the reason I brought this up when I said, are you prepared? Is because the more experienced you are in the markets, the easier it is to say, well, my plan is to buy this now and sell it in 2030, right? But in the real world, when you buy something and, like I said, it goes up and then it starts to show volatility or it crashes, the reality is most people don't make money because they panic sell their holding or they deviate from their plan. And then when you look back on it with hindsight, you go, why did you buy that? Well, I bought this because I thought it would go up. Okay, good. And when were you planning to sell? Oh, 2030 or 2033? Okay. And when did you sell? 2024. What? Thought you were going to sell at 2030. No. I sold it 2024.
Absolutely.
Right. And it's the same thing with Bitcoin. People that get into Bitcoin, in the last couple of years, say, they could easily fall into the trap of thinking, well, Bitcoin only goes up, right? Because that's your entire experience, right? You buy Bitcoin and it goes up.
Yeah.
And then the next year it keeps going up, and the next year it keeps going up. So it's very easy to get to the point where you think, well, Bitcoin only goes up.
Yeah.
But of course, Bitcoin goes up and then it goes down. And when it goes down a lot. And it goes down a lot very, very quickly.
Yeah.
So the reason I asked this is not so much targeted at you personally.
That was cool.
But anyone that's gotten into the market in the last few years, I think it just reiterates that point of have a plan and stick to it. You know, if you've bought gold and silver because you believe in gold and silver over the decade, then do not shoot yourself in the foot and sell in 2024 when if you need to write it down that my plan is to hold till 2030, whatever you need to do to make sure that you stick to your plan, make sure you stick to your plan. And the same with Bitcoin, right? If you bought Bitcoin because you want to play a 4-year cycle, well, then if you come to sell next year, you better have a good reason for doing so, right?
Yeah.
Or if you decided to accumulate a whole coin so that you could pass it down to your grandchildren, and then you find next year, or even December of this year, right? Even mid-December, if Bitcoin undergoes a 30 or 40% crash, which by the way, it does routinely in a bull market, right? It will move up and then crash 30 or 40% and then move up and crash another 30 or 40%. If you find yourself on one of these 30 or 40% pullbacks, selling your Bitcoin, when the only reason you bought it in the first place was to hand it down to your grandchildren, then clearly you've, deviated from your original plan, right?
Sure.
So I think the reason I mention it is not so much to be like, hey, CPM, what's your exact plan? But also it's more of a, I think that old saying of money, it's easy to make the money, it's hard to keep it. And that's very, very, very true. Like when we're in a bull market like now, anything you buy is going to go up, right?
Yeah.
But believe me, those good times come to an end. And it's important, therefore, to know your entry and your exit. It's important to have your strategy and stick to it. Because if you're going to get shaken out on the pullbacks, and there will be nasty pullbacks along the way, then you're obviously going to fall into that category of traders that don't make money.
100%. And that's why I'm so pleased, myself and my son, but I can only talk for myself, we got involved in that 79% crash.
Yeah.
But at the beginning of it as well, really, almost.
Yeah.
Because that give us the discipline to believe in the protocol and the technology rather than, oh my God, I want to make 10 grand in a month.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because trust me, all we saw it was go down.
Yeah.
Go down. But the flip side of our psychology, which I've spoken about before, was the more it was going down, was the more oh my God, we're getting it cheaper, we can accumulate more, and that was based on my wife telling me, why are you doing this?
Yeah.
Why are you doing this? All it's doing is going down.
Yeah.
And that which is a normal reaction in our way of life, isn't it? It's just why invest in something that goes down?
Yeah.
Well, that's not the thesis of how this works. It's got to go down. Why do people go on their channel and just say this is a buyer's market? Apply the same logic. Why don't you apply the same logic to, what would you rather do? Buying a housing market, your dream home while it's going up, or would you, if you knew it was going to come down, would you not wait?
Yeah.
And buy your property while it's coming down. Well, it's a crazy, strange thing where we get so married to our thought processes that we don't look outside the box. I hate that saying, but it's true. And you can only look outside the box once you start to open up to educating yourself.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's. Yeah, it's fascinating. I've noticed in I can't call myself a stacker as such. I can't call myself a collector as such, a silver and gold. I just love the asset for what it is.
Yeah.
And I'm still learning about it. Purely, I haven't paid it probably as much attention as looking at historical facts and gold and silver, what I've done Bitcoin. where Bitcoin's taken me, just down that fiat trail more than anything.
Yep.
But it's allowed me to look at gold and silver, and I've probably been susceptible to looking at oh, that's pretty.
Yeah.
This is pretty. Like these Bitcoin coins in front of me. Oh, they all look pretty. And probably learned a harder way of looking at silver. I suppose what I'm trying to say, I haven't put the correct amount of hours into studying what I want from gold and silver as much as what I've done Bitcoin. But now that's changing because I'm comfortable with the Bitcoin choices.
Yeah.
Now I'm looking at silver and gold more. What do I want out of it? So getting back to your question again,
Yeah.
I'm probably prepared in certain aspects of my portfolio, but I think others I need to educate myself and just make sure that I'm comfortable doing what I'm doing. And if I'm comfortable, then I will move the cash into that, like I've done my Bitcoin, really, I suppose.
Yeah. Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. Like I say, just speaking from experience, if you get into a market after a crash and then it's up only mode for a while, it's easy to think that, oh, wow, I've cracked the code, right? This is the secret of life. This is what rich people do. They buy stocks or they buy Bitcoin or they buy gold and it just goes up. But I think the message is, good times come, but then bad times follow. And then good times come again, right? But if you're not, it's easy to get blindsided, especially if you're new. It's easy to buy some stuff and it goes up and then to think, okay, this is all that happens, right? And then the more it goes up, the more you feel like a genius. You did your research, you bought a bunch of stuff, and now you're a lot richer than you were before, right? Oh. Easy to feel like a genius. But my advice is simply, be open to not letting your emotions get the best of you. Be open to all possible outcomes and understand that at any given point, there will be pullbacks, there will be shakeouts, and there will be trend reversals, right? And so as long as you have a plan and you stick to it, as long as you know what that plan is and you stick to it, then you can't go far wrong. Yeah. But it is very, very easy I think I told you the story before last time we spoke, actually, that the very first stock I ever bought went up 400% in 9 months.
Yes, you did. Yeah.
Right. And just probably, to be honest, the only reason I'm a trader today is because I thought that, wow, that's how the rich people function, right? They just buy stock and it goes up 4 times in 9 months. Yeah. So, had I have bought that stock and it went down and I lost all my money, I might have decided the whole thing was a scam and I might have never been a trader.
Yeah.
So I know firsthand that the money is easy made. The money is easily made. It's easy to make money. It's a lot harder to hold on to it over time.
Yeah.
So it would be my advice to anyone that's listening or anyone that's relatively new to the space, anyone that has, if you've been in an environment where you just buy things and they go up and you feel like a genius, that's great. Okay. But remember, there will come a time, whether it is in months or years, there will come a time when the trend shifts and when suddenly it is, what's the expression? I think it's Warren Buffett's expression. When the tide goes out, it shows everyone that's swimming naked. Right? Yeah. And if you're swimming naked, you're eventually going to be found out. So just make sure that you have a plan, you stick to it, you're fluid. And because the thing is as well, anyone that bought Bitcoin in the last couple of years, let's assume we go to 300K, right? Yeah. Whether we go next year, the year after that, anyone that's put money in and then Bitcoin sits at 300K, you're going to be on top of the world.
Yeah,
absolutely on top of the world, and rightfully so. But that is when you're most vulnerable. And I'm not trying to say this to be a downer or anything like that. I'm just simply saying this from experience, right? I've been there. I've been the, walking around with a spring in your step because you made a bunch of money, right? But if you don't realize the gain, if you don't keep yourself level-headed and open to all outcomes, then you're just going to end up you're going to have 300K in profit for Bitcoin and it's going to quickly evaporate and you're going to be left with 30K again, right? When you could have 10 times the amount of Bitcoin you hold. Instead, you're going to just have held the whole thing down when it went to a 90% bear market or something like that. So, my message is, I'm not trying to be a downer. I'm just trying to say to anyone that's listening, good times are good times, but bad times get very bad very quickly. So just make sure that you don't get suckered into thinking that, markets only go up.
Yeah. It's a fantastic piece of advice and one I'm I'll be honest with you, Camel. I am kind of extremely looking forward to seeing the results of our faith that we've put into our investment.
Yep.
But I'm not. And the reason why I say I'm not is because it's going to ask another question. Now what?
Yep.
What
Yeah,
are you
it
going to
does.
do?
Yeah.
What are you going to do? What
Yeah.
are you going to do? How are you going to protect this now? You've put all that effort into making it happen.
Yep.
Now, how are you going to protect it? Because, like you just said very eloquently and professionally, you've now got to protect it. Otherwise, it's all been a fucking waste of time. Excuse my language.
No, you're right. You're right.
It's,
100% right.
it's the truth. It is the truth. Now,
Yeah,
that's
and if you don't know the answer to that question
yeah,
right now,
yeah,
then you're doing it wrong.
yeah,
Okay, you must know ahead of time.
yeah,
You know, are you going to hold to 2030? Are
yeah,
you going to hold if it's Bitcoin for one cycle? Are you
yeah,
attempting to sell some at the top? How much are you going to sell at the top?
yeah,
Right? How much?
yeah,
10%,
yeah,
90%,
yeah,
100%.
yeah,
You need to know the answers to these questions right now. And if you don't, then
yeah,
you're doing it wrong, you know?
yeah. And you've got and another thing for me as well. If Bitcoin, well, we're using Bitcoin as an example because I think it's got the greatest possibility of pulling it off at the moment. If it's going to hit these crazy, crazy, but logically they make sense, of course, if the stars align. But these crazy figures is then I hear so many people talking about, oh, well, I sell up and what are you selling it for? Because I'm sure if Bitcoin's done this, there's an issue somewhere within the current system. You know, you've got to at least think about, you know, you're not surely going to just plow it back into fiat or
Yeah, and then leave it in the bank.
you know, what was the effort for? What was it
Yeah.
for? How
Yeah.
what is there anything else that's going to be sound for your legacy that you're trying to put together with this opportunity in front of me? But that said, I still believe what's going on at the moment is still making people or making them look at themselves and thinking, why do you want to why would you risk um, certain aspects of your hard-earned money without a plan just to get rich quick? You know, are you doing the right thing? Are you really doing the right thing? Are you just gambling? You know, the bigger picture is such a bigger picture, and I think within the stacking, the silver, the gold, well, Bitcoin, most investments, it's so easy to think, yeah, I can make a few quid here, I can make a few quid there. But what you're making it with, are you taking excessive risk with how much money you're earning? Have you got that money to play with? You know, it's all these silly questions that I think are highlighting people are a little bit desperate and they can get desperate and get caught out so quick.
Yeah. And it's a highly individualized thing as well, right? So for some people, they might just decide if Bitcoin gets to 100K, I'm going to sell the whole thing and buy myself a house or pay off my mortgage. And if that's your strategy, if that was your plan from a year ago when you first started buying and you stick to that plan, there's nothing wrong with that. There'll be plenty of people that say, wow, you should have held it forever, $100 million of Bitcoin one day, right? Whatever. But the point is, have your plan and stick to it. So there might be some people, like I said, that want to pay their mortgage off. There might be other people, like, for example, me. I'm just
Yeah,
interested in trying to increase the number of Bitcoin I've got, right? And I'll just hold on to it for a while. So if I can sell near the top and buy back near the bear market low, then I might be able to, 10x the number of Bitcoin I currently hold. And then who knows, right? Who knows what the next step is from there? But that for me is the plan to get more Bitcoin. But
yeah,
just because that's the plan for me, I might be in a significantly more fortunate position than
yeah,
other people
yeah,
who, or it could be perhaps if you're an 18-year-old that was gifted some money for his birthday on his 18th, perhaps they just put it all in Bitcoin in the hope that they could 3 or 4x it and then use that as a deposit for a house. There's nothing wrong with whatever your strategy is, right? There's nothing wrong
absolutely.
with it. It's also worth noting, if you're a younger person, then taking more risk is acceptable. If you're an older person,
Mm,
then you might be thinking to yourself, well, I've worked my entire career right? I've worked a 30-year career to build this wealth.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to lose it in a 90-volt asset, right?
No.
I'm not trying to draw down 70% plus in a bear market. So, each to their own, and that's absolutely fine. There's no right or wrong way to do it. But it is, like I said earlier, important that if you don't know the answers to the question, what are you going to do if Bitcoin hits 300K next year or the year after? What are you going to do if this happens? You should have a predetermined answer for every single possible outcome already. And so long as you can stick to that, then you can't really be wrong, right?
No, 100%, mate. It's really funny. And I would say as this cycle progresses, while Bitcoin does its things, and with the eminence of possibly gold and silver doing its thing, all the blockchain stocks that I've got, they're all doing well, slowly, very slowly, but it's all a positive way. And that has made me start to think, oh my God, this could happen.
Yep.
So that then makes me think, okay, well, what if it does? Let's start to put a plan into place now. And well, if this happens at that stage, then that gives me the opportunity to maybe do this or maybe do that. If the stars are still good, then we can do this, then we can do that. And that's more exciting than probably hitting, although hitting will probably be really exciting, but I don't know what that's going to feel like because I've never experienced it before. Hello?
Yeah, I'm still here, mate.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's fine. It's fine. Do you mind if can we take a quick 5-minute break?
Dude, yeah, of course you can.
All right, mate.
Yeah, no worries. I'll just pause it. Cool. So, preparation, education, key. I think. Well, I don't think that'll ever change, will it?
No,
not at all.
Doubt
it. As I am supposedly a silver and gold stacking channel, collecting channel, I don't say that flippantly. Well, maybe I do a little bit, but
it's the gains of Bitcoin, right? Blinds you.
It is, yeah. It's so funny. A bit of a sidestep. One thing I've often thought is if Bitcoin does Bitcoin things, from my point of view, it's gonna put me into a really a different situation than what I've been used to most of my life. And I've quite often sat there and thought, oh my God, like the silver and gold, especially silver, physical silver to me on observation seems to be technically going through a change. And they're bringing out some amazing innovation in design, which is obviously out there to make people buy it. But that makes me like a bit of a sucker for consumption. Because I love creative design.
Yeah.
From photography and whatever. So quite often I've sat there and I thought, oh crikey, if Bitcoin does Bitcoin things and I, take a bit of profit here and there, what a lovely thing to spend it on. Although I should be spending it on other things as well. But it's one of the things that I would love to really collect some really nice art pieces as that world within silver design is changing. And boy, I thought Bitcoin was changing and blockchain technology was changing everything quick. All the technology and innovation within design on pieces of silver with the way they do this now is just crazy, incredibly, and it's changing really quickly.
Yeah.
Getting back to silver and gold. Now, are you a physical silver and gold person?
Am I a silver and gold person?
Physical. I think I've asked you this before.
Yeah, I am. Yeah.
You are. What do you look at silver and gold as more than just do you look at it as a collector type thing, or just
no, I don't, mate.
Fully physical, sell it one day.
Whatever. I pretty much only hold silver and gold Britannias because they're capital gains tax exempt. That's pretty much, that's like, I would say 99% of my entire physical stack is in Britannias. I've got a few dragon bars, those 1 ounce rectangular dragon bars.
Yeah.
I think you know what I'm talking about, right?
I do indeed. The Perth Mint ones, yeah.
Yeah. I've got a few of those, and trying to think what else. I've got a few Queen's Beasts ones.
Oh yeah.
Mostly just because, as I said, my mum's. I've grown
Mm.
up around sighthounds and greyhounds and lurchers, and my mum's got
Yeah.
that whip Julia I was talking about. So yeah, the sighthound's got a soft spot in my heart. So I own a few of those for that reason.
And,
But
did
99% of it, mate, is Britannia's, and that's
yeah.
just because stack them up, and
Yeah.
one day, I won't have to pay any capital gains tax on it. I
Sure.
don't like the amount of tax I have to pay anyway, so anywhere I can legally swerve it, I will.
100%.
So yeah, that's always been my approach, mate. Just the Britannias, because, like I said, tax exempt.
And I think it was you. I'm sure it was you. Did you mention something about some triangular silver bars or coins or something?
No, I don't think so, mate.
Oh, I'm sure it was you. Oh, I feel an idiot now.
No,
Oh,
I don't think
okay.
so. I don't know anything about that.
Okay. Okay. No worries at all. So getting back to the physical side of things. So you're definitely I would say a stacker.
Yeah, I was a stacker before I was a Bitcoiner.
Oh, really?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, cool.
I think anti-fiat has always been in my nature.
Yeah.
And
Really?
anything that, yeah, yeah. I
Never
bet you're
guess
surprised.
that.
No. Anti-establishment, anti-fiat, and things that don't carry counterparty risk, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I've always been nervous, even before the whole Bitcoin stuff. I've always been nervous about keeping money in a bank, because once you realize that money's not actually yours, right, and they can take it at will, and you've somewhere, whether you know it or not, you've signed a piece of paper that says you accept those terms. Once I come to learn this, I was like, okay, give me some money I can hold, right?
Yeah.
So I've been a gold and silver stacker before I was a Bitcoiner, and then Bitcoin, to my mind, is just like an even more bomb-proof version of anti-fiat money that you can hold yourself and is non-confiscatable.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So more of a physical standard bullion, UK bullion thing.
Yeah, and I appreciate that that's not for everyone, because you don't really want to be keeping physical bullion in your house.
No.
I appreciate not everyone has the facility to adequately hide physical bullion.
Yeah.
But for those that do, then physical bullion carries no counterparty risk, right? And I would rather hold the physical metal somewhere than hold an ETF or something like that.
Okay. So you don't hold any paper gold or silver?
No, I don't hold any for the long term. I do trade paper gold, often. So I've been making these videos lately saying if we break the all-time high,
sure,
then I'll go long. That will be a paper gold trade. I'm not going to be buying physical gold coins to trade long, because I won't be able to manage the risk. I won't be able to have a stop loss, and I'll have to pay a premium on the coins. So I have a core allocation to physical metals, and for the trade, then I will be looking to use spread betting and derivatives. And then I will say this as well: once I exit that trade, I will be exiting the money into physical gold and silver. So it's a nice way of turning paper derivatives into a physical asset.
Yeah, it makes sense. Total sense. So that leads me down into. I'm going to try not to do the rabbit hole thing too much.
Yeah.
So I get it. I really do get the physical side. I bounce between collector stacker all the time, but that's my journey at the moment, and I'm sure it will settle down in time. Since your Friday video, I've gone back to stacker more than collector, but that makes sense. So do you ever put much thought into, from an exit strategy with your physical stacking, do you put any thought into how or what you can use that for in the future? And obviously that depends on how are we in CBDC land? Are we in fiat land still? How easy is this to liquidate into what we need to exist? I think you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Do you ever think about that sort of thing?
Yeah, I do. And it kind of goes back to what I was saying earlier about you should know what you're planning on doing, right?
Sure.
For me, I have been stacking gold and silver, like I said, since before Bitcoin.
Yeah.
And I continue to trade the paper derivatives and then exit those into physical metals. As I said, that's basically the only way I add to my stack is
Yeah.
as and when those trades set up, I'll exit the money into physical assets. My strategy has been that sometime between 2030 and 2033, there will be some kind of currency reset.
Yeah.
And as a result of that hypothesis, I've expected gold to enter a bull market and silver, of course. And I expect by the end of this decade that we are trading 5 figures for gold for an ounce. So 10 to 15K. A lot of people will say that's exuberant. I would say that is conservative. I have a base case of 10 to 15K per gold ounce. And I have a base case of $250 to $300 silver per ounce by the end of this decade. And I think if we get there or close to it, then at that point, we will be looking at some kind of monetary reset where I don't know whether this will be a CBDC reset or whether we just say, start to peg the new dollar system to gold or silver or whatever. But it is my primary expectation that we will enter this bull market in the next, say, 12 months, if not sooner. We will, like I said, trade to 5 figures an ounce. So 10 to 15K per ounce of gold and $200 to $300 of silver per ounce. And once we get there, then they will probably decide, okay, we've printed too much money. We need to lock some zeros off. We need to fix the inflation problem, and we need to peg some new currency, whether it is digital or not, to gold. And from there, we just do the whole pony show all over again, right? So my plan has been to stack a bunch of gold and silver, ride it until 2030 or perhaps 2033, and reassess the situation when we get there. So, we're a good 6 to 9 years away from that.
Yeah.
So my plan in the meantime is to essentially do nothing. And like I said, if we're going to trade these paper derivatives on the breakouts for gold and silver, then again, I will do what I always do, which is exit the profit, assuming they are profitable trades, into more physical gold and silver for the long term. And once we get there, it should be pretty obvious if I'm right or wrong in the next 2 or 3 years, right?
Sure.
If gold rejects at the all-time high level in the next few weeks and continues to go lower and lower and lower, then I'm pretty wrong about this, right? But if at some point in the next 12 months we start to see 2,500, 3,000, 3,500 gold, then we know I'm pretty much right on this general idea.
Yeah.
And if that's the case, then, like I said earlier, have a plan and stick to it. The plan is to hold it until 2030 or 2033. And hopefully by then we are well above $10,000 an ounce of gold. At that point, then it becomes time for reassessment. I will be open to either holding the gold and just storing it as wealth that way. I will also be open to selling some of it for fiat. It may or may not be difficult. If we are perhaps in a CBDC realm, then can we sell the gold for CBDCs? Would I want to do that? Probably not. No one really knows what's going to happen in 6 weeks, let alone 6 months. And now I'm talking about 6 to 9 years, right? So my plan is, like I said over and over again, hold the gold until the end of the decade and reassess from there. Mm-hmm. In the meantime, like I said, I'm also planning on stacking more if I can via trades. And that's pretty much that, right? Once we get there, we'll figure out, is it easy to liquidate that gold into something that's useful to me? Or am I going to just hold it and store it as wealth? Maybe it will be illegal to hold it then, in which case I'm definitely not giving it up, right?
Yeah.
No one really knows, but my base case has been hold it until the end of the decade and reassess from there. So that is currently my plan.
Isn't it funny? Like what you've just said is basically what most people would say if they were educated and bother to educate themselves. Isn't it weird that we're in this situation? It just blows my mind that possibly we're in this situation. And that's why I say, getting back to what you've said, and I love it, what a fascinating, lovely time to be alive. It really is, because I suppose on the one hand, it's not for the uneducated, maybe, and that sounds very arrogant, and I don't mean it in a very arrogant way, because who knows what can happen, but it just really makes me wonder what is ahead when most educated people are saying the same sort of things. We are in the midst of a credit currency reset about to happen at some point. Whether I will see it in my lifetime, I don't know. There is a good possibility. The outcome, I don't know how to call it. I really don't. But I'd like to think that I've got a possibility of being in a position that I'm in a position to be on the right side of it. Does that make any sense whatsoever?
Yeah, of course it does. Yeah, of course it does. I mean, it is what it is, right? I mean, it kind of goes right back to what I was saying earlier about, do you want to be right or wrong, or do you want to make money, right? And that's the beautiful thing about it, is that if gold and silver are going to start to move up, then all the gold and silver stackers out there were right. Yeah. And, if it dips one more time, then we can entertain, is that a buyable dip? Yeah. Does that dip reverse? And then does that dip clear the all-time highs? And then it's just exactly the same thing all over again, right? Yeah. But once gold, that's the beautiful thing about markets, right? We don't have to know. You don't have to be a genius. You just have to be open to letting the market tell you. And if gold is going to break all-time high, if silver's monthly close is going to continue to push up, then we've entered a new bull market and higher prices are coming. And well done. Pat yourself on the back if you stacked gold and silver, right? Yep. We just probably entered the next fucking... Oh, I swore.
No,
I never swear.
That's cool. I know you don't.
Too much rum.
That's
but
cool.
Yeah,
that's cool.
If we're gonna clear these levels, then we've just entered a 10-year bull market, right? Yeah, and it's a long time coming, frankly, because there have been people that have been stacking gold and silver since 2010, 2011, 2012, and here we are a decade or more later. Yeah. And the price hasn't done anything, right? Yeah. So, I mean, it's about time. It's about time we saw a run. And frankly, for me personally, I've been stacking for a long time, and I'm kind of sick of it. So send the thing, right? Send it to all-time highs. Yeah. Let's finally see some prices that are reflective of the real world. Because as everybody knows, the price has been suppressed, and the ETFs and the paper claims and all of that stuff, right? Yeah. It's finally time. I think and what a time to be alive. I say this all the time, but what a time to be alive. We are literally staring down the barrel of a decade-long bull market in the precious metals. Yeah. In terms of what a time to be alive, people have been waiting 12, 13 years for this. And now we're here. Now we are here. So yeah, fantastic. Send it. That's what I say. Send it.
Cool. Looks like I need to reconsider what I'm doing. Possibly. No.
Yes and no. Have a plan and stick to it, right?
I don't mean that.
Yeah, have a plan. I mean, you've got plenty of exposure to metals, right? I know you have, because I've seen the displays, right? You've got more than most. I can tell you that right now.
Yeah.
So
yeah, for sure.
And Cobra Stacker with his
dude,
4 or 5 metric tons of silver, like that man is going to be rich.
He won't mind me talking about this because I won't go into detail.
Yeah.
We had this conversation after we was talking about your video, and
right.
I said to him after I listened to Camel's video, I automatically, one of the biggest comments I thought to one of the biggest thoughts that come to my head was, oh my God, Cobra's in such a good place.
Yeah, unbelievable.
Stack. And I said to him, dude, just hang on to it. And we was laughing about it, because we've been talking about, because we're relatively new and we're learning and whatever, and he's got great beliefs in what he's doing. I've got great beliefs in what I'm doing, but there's a lot of commonality in it. Yeah. And I said to him, and he said to me, he said, "Thank God I've got all this." And I said, "Yeah, too right, dude. Keep going."
Yeah,
Keep going, dude.
Do you know what? Cobra is a perfect example of how, what I was saying earlier about have a plan and stick to it.
Oh, absolutely.
If Cobra could write his plan down now and say, for example, I'm not selling till 2030 or beyond, right? Yeah. And if he can stick to that, he's going to do well. But equally, he could ruin his entire life by paper handing the first pullback, right? Oh, no, it's crashed 10%. I'm selling it all, right? Yeah. And I'm not saying he would, of course. I'm just simply saying it's a perfect example of how, if you don't know what you're going to do ahead of time, then it's really difficult in the heat of the moment to make the decision. But if people like Cobra who have worked really hard their whole lives and stacked up a big, nice stack, right? Yeah. All you got to do is write down on a piece of paper, this is my plan. And then from there, happy days, right?
Yeah.
No problem. And I know for sure if Cobra can just make it to the end of the decade, then he is going to be laughing the loudest. I'm 100% sure of that.
I, yeah, I know him. I don't know him really well, but I know him fairly well. He'd be fine.
Yeah, I'm sure he will. I'm sure I've watched enough of his content to know
Yeah,
that he's got a plan and he's going to stick to it. So
yeah, absolutely. And I've got him on the Bitcoin hunt as well, and he's stacking there, and
good lad.
he's yeah, as me, Bitcoin, gold, silver, primarily.
Yeah.
He's doing the same. And one interesting question: a lot of people talk about industrial use with
Yep.
silver,
Yeah.
and one of the questions that always aches at the back of my mind is if industry relies on cheaper silver price, how is this going to affect, or is it even possible that it will be allowed to go to these $200-$300 an ounce silver, or are we expecting innovation to come in at some point, well, maybe rather quickly, where silver isn't relied on in the industrial side of things? What are your thoughts on that, mate?
I can give you my thoughts. I honestly, you know me, I'll be the first to hold my hands up and say I'm not qualified here. And I think I'm not qualified here, to be honest, CPM. I'll say this. I
Even
don't know
think about it,
anything.
though.
I don't know anything about industrial silver.
Okay.
That's fact number one. Okay. I don't
Okay.
know anything about industrial silver. Fact number two is when you said they are gonna, would they be allowed to? I don't think it's going to be a product of are they allowed to move the price. I think
Yeah.
this will be much more a direct result of if they keep printing money, money's going to become worth less,
Sure.
right? Money's going to be debased. And if they're going to keep debasing money, which we can be almost certain they will because they've got too much debt and there's no other way to service the debt apart from inflate it away.
Yeah.
If they're going to keep debasing the currency, then things like gold and silver or watches or cars or food or eggs, whatever it is, the more you debase currency, the more units of debased currency are needed to buy the same quantity of stuff. So my thought is, do I know anything about industrial silver? I know nothing about industrial silver. Do I think silver still makes $250 to $300 an ounce? Yes, absolutely. And I think that comes as the direct result of debasing the currency. These people are addicted to printing money.
Yeah.
And so long as they continue to print money, gold and silver are eventually going to have to reflect the debasement of fiat currency.
Okay.
Just like eggs are as well. Eggs are, houses are, right?
Yeah.
Anything you can buy for money is going to end up being more expensive. And that's not to say it goes up in value. It's just simply to say it takes more units of debased currency to buy the same thing.
Okay, let me jump in there because we're going to go down another little hole then. So is that possibly what you're saying is, yeah, it's quite easy to get to $200-$300 an ounce, but the true value of fiat, if you're valuing it in fiat, is so debased, it's irrelevant.
Well, I think what I'm saying is if we look at Bitcoin as an example, right? Back in 2017, it ran from something like $150 up to a high of 20,000.
Yeah.
And then what happened is it spent no more than minutes at $20,000. It spent no more than a week at around $14,000. And then it crashed 90% or 84%, I think, right? Back down to $3,000 per Bitcoin. I think what we see is probably roughly the same thing in silver, right? So I think for a brief moment in time, it hits $200, $300, $400, $500 an ounce, but it very, very quickly reverses and then ends as a crash, right? And if you pull up the prior chart, like we've hit $50 silver before, right?
Yeah, we have.
I think that was back in 2011, maybe something like that.
Roughly about.
But we spent no more than a day or two at $50, right?
Yeah.
A day or two later, we were at $40. A day later, we were at $30 again, right?
Yeah.
So we're just talking about short-term numbers that can be achieved. When I say $250 to $300 per ounce of silver, you've probably got inside of 2 or 3 days to sell at those levels, right? So I'm not suggesting that we go there and we stay there. I'm not suggesting that becomes the new normal to buy 1 ounce kookaburra for $400, right? That's not what I'm suggesting. That's not what I'm suggesting.
Dude,
What I am
so.
suggesting,
I hope so.
I mean, that would be nice, right? But what I am suggesting is there will come a time in the next, say, between 2030 and 2033, there will come a time when, if you're lucky and you catch it on the right day, you could probably sell your kookaburras for $400 a coin.
Yeah.
Like I say, you probably got a day, 3 days max in that neighborhood. And then likely after that number is hit, they're very quickly worth 200, then 150, then $100 a coin. But that's still a pretty sizable gain versus where we are today, right? So, a speculative bubble is indeed a speculative bubble. Overall, I do think that the $10,000 to $15,000 gold coin is a feasible target, and I do think that $250 to $300 for silver is a feasible target. Can you sell the top? Well, that's the big question, right? And it's the same with any asset. Certain stocks will trade in a parabola, and then 2 days later they've halved, right? Yeah. Bitcoin, we've seen it before go to, like in 2017, for example, it went to $20,000. 3 days later, is it 10K?
Yeah.
Right. Like, can you catch the top? Well, that depends on how nimble you are, how skilled you are with TA and all of that stuff. But overall, like I said, over and over and over again, if you've got a plan, my plan personally is hold it to the end of the decade. And I'm pretty sure that we're going to be 10x plus up on our investments by the end of the decade as pertains to the silver and the gold markets.
Do you know what? That's really cool the way you've said that, because a lot of people will maybe look at 200 to 300 pound silver an ounce that's going to last forever.
Yeah.
You just explained it like,
I'll be honest, right? I'll be honest. I've got a pretty nice stack of silver, for example. If we ever saw $250, $260, $270 an ounce, I would be almost certain in myself that I'll be phoning my broker and saying, buy all of it.
Yeah.
Right. Like, and what if it goes to $500, $600, $700, $800 an ounce? I actually don't care, CPM. Yeah. I don't care. Right. If you're going to give me $250 an ounce and I've paid 25 quid, right? Yeah. If I pay 25 quid and you're going to give me 250, take it all. Right. Yeah. And if for a short period of time, a day, a week, a month, it trades higher than that, maybe it trades all the way up to $600 an ounce and I sold for 250. I don't care because I made 10x. Right.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, that old quote of, this is a financial market, right? Do you want to make money or do you want to be right? I don't care if I'm right or wrong. I don't care if I get the top. All I know is if I bought a bunch of silver at 25 quid an ounce and you're going to buy it off me for 250, that's a good deal for my liking, right?
Massive.
And most probably within a few years' time, I'm going to be able to buy it back at 25 quid.
Yeah.
It is what it is. You know what I mean? Like it is what it is. It is what it is. Gold, on the other hand, I might be more tempted to hold on to some of it just because it's a store of value.
Yeah.
Right. So if it makes it to 15K an ounce, I know that sounds like a massive number, but just go with it. Yeah. Let's say it makes it to $15,000 an ounce. I might be willing to hold on to a bunch of that. And if it goes down to 12, 10, 8K an ounce, then, whatever, right? I'm still storing a lot more monetary energy than I paid, because I bought most of my gold at £800 an ounce, right? Yeah. Most of my stack is at £800 average. So anything above that, I'm happy with, right?
Yeah.
Like almost certainly I'm not going to be in a loss because of the entry I got years ago.
Sure.
So overall, would I be willing to store some of that in gold? Yes. But silver, if silver makes $250 to $300 an ounce, you best believe I'm selling all of it and I'm not going to look back. Even if it goes to $1,000 an ounce, I don't care, right? Once we get to 250 to 300, take it. I don't want any of it.
And I will propose to Cobra Sucker. Hello?
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, sorry. And
you'll propose to Cobra Stack or what?
I will propose. Just say I'll be your bitch, mate. If silver's at £200 to £300, I'll be your bitch, sir.
Cobra has so much silver that he might put like downward pressure on the silver industry.
It's great. And I dread to think how much he's got by 2030.
Mate, that's the way to do it, right?
Yeah,
that's the way to do it. Have conviction in your investment, build it up, and then Cobra. I know I'm looking forward to that. You know what I mean? Like by the time we get to 2030, Cobra's going to be a gazillionaire. I'm looking forward to that.
Absolutely, dude. And I'm pleased I'm his mate.
Yeah, for
It'd
sure.
be really cool. I don't know. He will be buying monster boxes for sure. Monster box. But it just makes you what it. The crazy thing about this whole world is that the the pure joy of thinking this can happen.
Yeah.
It's it. I don't know. Sometimes I have to. Getting back to the early part of this video. Sometimes I have to just. You still on? Oh yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I'm here, mate. I'm here.
Sorry, mate. Sometimes I have to really reel in my enthusiasm a little bit and
Yeah.
just think, whoa, come on, guys, come on. How many
Yeah.
times we've seen videos on and people talking about hundreds of pounds per ounce and £1 million Bitcoins and this and that. We have to keep real a little bit. But saying that, the logic and the realism of how we once we start to educate ourselves, it's possible. And when you start to think, oh, bloody hell, this is possible, this is the way things are going. And I'm sure at our level, if we're thinking it, people which have a far greater amount of wealth than I have are all thinking the same too.
Yeah, for sure. And the thing is, if you're one of these people that sat there thinking gold to 10K an ounce, yeah, right. Or like silver, $250. Are you mad? If that's what you're thinking, that's fair enough, right?
Yeah.
But it goes back to what we keep saying over and over again, right? Have a plan and stick to it. My plan is I've got my silver and I've got my gold, and those are my price targets by the end of the decade, as I've said, right? But I also have a plan of what if we get to 2025 and gold is at $1,800 an ounce, right?
Yeah.
What if we get to 2025 and silver is $20 an ounce,
Yeah.
right? I know what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
I know what I'm going to do. The question is, do you, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So have a plan and stick to it, but also plan for every possible outcome, right? Because we don't know. Because let's be honest, they could hypothetically find 10 million gigatons of gold in Afghanistan tomorrow.
Yeah.
And if they do, I'm not saying they will, but if they do, then gold suddenly becomes a lot less valuable overnight, right? So, like I said, have a plan and stick to it, but also be aware that, you know, I know what I'm going to do if gold makes the targets I expect it to make, but I also know what I'm going to do if we get to 2026 and gold is still at $2,000 an ounce. I'm going to exit it to something else.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
All right, because gold has failed, right?
Yeah.
Gold is either going to break out in the next couple of years or gold has failed, right? So that's how I see it. But I'm pretty sure, like I said, and like we've touched on multiple times, the charts don't lie. And the charts say a higher gold price is coming and a higher silver price is coming even quicker.
Cool. What, dude? I'm going to pause because I need a wee.
Yeah, you crack on, mate. You crack on.
Cheers, dude. Cool. Right, I feel a bit better there. So that's cool. We know about gold, silver, Bitcoin. The long and short of this, probably this last hour and a half, maybe plodding on for a little bit longer than that, is education. Everyone's got a different, not a different plan, but the plan's almost the same.
Yep.
What are your thoughts on going forward about the way Fed interest rates? Are we going to get some rate cuts, and is that going to produce have a major impact on everyone's craziness in the markets?
Yep.
Is it coming?
Yeah, I think it is, mate. I think it is. This, I think, is a pretty simple black and white answer, right? At the moment, a pause has been occurring. So we've seen the most aggressive rate hike in history. We've then seen a couple of pauses, and the CME is currently pricing something like a 90. Let me check the numbers. We're currently in the 99 point something probability that we're going to see a pause at the next December's meeting.
Sure.
Just putting up the numbers right now on screen. Give me 1 second. Yeah, 98.8%, right? Now, whenever we see 85% plus, then it's seldom wrong. So the fact that we're at 98.8% probability tells me that with almost certainty, we are going to see another pause at December's meeting. Looking out to January, we've got an 85% probability that we're going to see another pause, right?
Yeah.
So to my mind, the Fed is done hiking and markets know that, and that's fine. And that's to be expected. And thus, we could probably see all-time highs run in the stocks.
Yeah.
Are they about to cut into Q1 of or even Q2 of next year? Yes, almost certainly. And historically speaking, cutting rates equals massive drawdowns in risk assets. So I think we've got time to run it hot. I think we've got time to run the all-time highs. But I also think that we are likely going to see a Fed cutting cycle in the end of Q1 or early Q2 of next year. And that is likely going to mark the start of a recession in 2024.
Sure. So do you think that 2024, I've just written it down on my pad, could be the year of craziness or the start of craziness?
Yep.
Definitely.
What of Q1 of next year or Q2?
Yeah.
Q2, I think.
Well, 2024 as a rule, are we going to see what am I trying to say here? Are we going to see the point of, okay, we've gone as far as we can go, market, now we're going to, obviously with the rate cuts, possibly, do you reckon they're going to be aggressive with their rate cuts, or it should be a slow cut down month by month, 0.5%?
No, I would have
1%?
thought they're going to be aggressive. They were aggressive on the way up, so it
Yeah.
stands to reason they're going to be aggressive on the way down. We've also got this weird situation, remember, where the central banks promised the normal banks that they wouldn't raise interest rates. They told them to buy a bunch of bonds and said, we
Yeah.
promise we won't raise interest rates.
Yeah.
Then the banks bought the bonds. And then 3 weeks later, they went on the most aggressive rate hiking cycle the world has ever seen.
Yeah.
Of course, this forces the banks to sit on unrealized losses, massive unrealized losses. So it only makes sense to me that we're going to see very, very aggressive rate cuts. And likely we're going to get back down near 0% interest right in time for all of that debt to be rolled over. That makes sense to me. Whether or not that happens is, of course, to be determined, but that makes sense to me. Like, if you're going to be aggressive on the way up, you're probably going to be aggressive on the way down.
Okay, that's cool. So 2024 could be crazy.
I think so, yeah. I think so. And that's kind of, you know how, I mean, you've been watching the channel for a long time, right?
Yeah.
The plan has been, or the expectation, I should say, has been that we run the all-time highs in the stocks.
Sure.
And then by the end of Q1 of next year, we see this big deflationary bust.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of still the expectation, right? Like, you know what I said to you earlier on, like right at the beginning of the podcast or this conversation, I said that, you know, it's right until it's wrong, right? Have your expectation, but be willing to change if the market proves otherwise.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the expectation has been we run the all-time highs and then we have a crash around Q1 of next year. So far, so good. So my thought is, since so far, so good, then if we continue to do that, then it's only reasonable to expect the crash portion is going to play out as well, right?
Yeah.
You know, I'm open to being proven wrong, but so far the market keeps going up. We're within a couple of percent of all-time highs. And if that continues, then it seems reasonable for me to expect that we have a crash, I don't know, around Q1 of next year. And is that coupled with cutting interest rates? It kind of makes sense to me.
It almost makes Q1 pivotable in everything, especially with Bitcoin, the ETFs, everything. It's sorry to bring Bitcoin back into it, but it plays an important role. I often sit there and think, well, I'm sure people like BlackRock, Fidelity, ARK, all that, they know this. They've got to know this.
Yep.
And they've got to be, you're not talking about a few £100,000 company here. You're talking about trillions of pounds.
Yep.
They've got to have, they must have like their own independent analysis departments that look at all these strategies. I honestly think quarter one going into 2 of 2024 is going to be pivotal for the next decade.
Yeah, I do too.
And that runs into that question you asked me: am I ready with you asked me a little while ago, am I positioned okay? But I think I am.
Yep.
I really do, by having a portion of this, like Bitcoin, silver, gold, and some stocks. And I don't know what your thoughts are on Tesla. I think Tesla's pretty underrated at the moment. I think that's got a good um, a good way forward in the next 4 or 5 years.
It's funny you
Um,
should mention Tesla. Actually, that's been that's the focus of the current members, the members' stock picks.
is
Is it
it
goes? Yeah, it is. Yeah,
really?
yeah, it really is. Yeah,
Why is
yeah. I've
that?
been. Oh, why is it?
Yeah.
Just from a charting perspective, you know me, I'm a chart guy, right?
Mhm.
And I posted it the week before last, and I said this chart is getting ready to go. And then all week this week, I was saying, "Yep, any day now," and it hasn't gone yet, but it's
No.
getting close to going. And so that's what I posted this morning to the members. I said, "Look, this is getting ready to go."
Well,
So
there's I'm gonna. This is again. This is like homage to your channel. Um, I'm heavy in Tesla.
are you?
Oh yeah, big time.
The log trend looks fantastic. I will say that.
Yeah.
Like, if you've got a long term horizon, that
Oh yeah.
chart is one of the best looking charts I know of.
Yeah, yeah. Me and my son are very heavy in Tesla
Yeah, yeah.
because statistically, when you look at what they're doing as a company, what the fuck do I know? Um, but gut feeling is Tesla to me is like the Bitcoin of 2 years ago for me.
Yep.
It makes sense when you look at the strength of what they're doing. And I also refer to, I see what Tesla's doing now to what two manufacturers in my industry did 25 years ago. There was, well,
Okay.
actually,
What do you mean?
there was more than two. There was two boiler manufacturers, actually longer than 25 years ago, 30 years ago. There was two boiler manufacturers that took the view that combination boilers. I don't know whether you know what that means in gas boilers point of view.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
The boilers that actually heat hot water in the boiler, so you don't have to have an airing cover and all this. There was primarily there was two companies, and that was Valent and Worcester, that really pioneered that space. And the main good solid manufacturers that were out there with people like Baxi, Potterton, Idle Standard, and they had a really good boiler at the time, which was heat only with a separate airing cupboard and diverted water. I won't bore you with the technicalities of it all, but Valen and Worcester went, okay, no, we're going to put into a lot of time and effort into this is the way forward for sure, and they got the jump on everybody else, and they now manufacture the best, and they're still held as the best 30 years later, well, probably 40 years later, to be fair. They've got the best name in that technology, and Tesla reminds me of that. They've love them or like them, yeah, love or like bloody Elon Musk. That's irrelevant from my point of view. I'm not bothered about Elon Musk. I'm about making a bit of money out of the company. Um, they've got the jump on everyone else. Totally got the jump on everyone else, and they're continually innovating and will have that jump on everyone else. And I think everyone else is struggling, which makes that a strong asset. And I think I've lost you.
No, you haven't. No,
Oh no,
no,
you're
that
back.
makes
Sorry.
no, it makes perfect sense. Yeah, makes perfect sense.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, and it's
So
interesting that you make those observations whilst
yeah,
I'm solely basing mine off the charts, but the
yeah,
charts say that
yeah,
this thing is getting ready to go.
yeah.
So it's interesting that you got like a fundamental analysis looking that
Yeah,
way, whilst the
definitely.
charts are also confirming that.
Yeah, for sure. It's how can you ignore? They haven't. for me personally, they haven't just sort of just, collapsed.
Yeah.
They're continuing to innovate.
Yeah.
And you can't ignore that. So again, bit of a punt from myself and my son's point of view, but we've gone heavy. And I think that probably at the price they're at the moment, when you compare them to others, stock, I think that's really, hopefully, a shrewd move. Might not be, I don't know, but that's
well, like I was saying, for members, I've been covering this stock lately, and it looks like to me it's ready to blow. So it hasn't quite made the technical confirmation that I need to see yet, but it looks like it's about to. So
yeah. I don't know why, and don't ask me why, because I'm not technically up to speed. I think possibly by the time, obviously, the Cybertruck's just gone through. I mean, good grief, when you look at the evidence, they've introduced a Cybertruck, and if the data's true, there's like a 2-year waiting list on it. That's amazing. That's absolutely amazing. Why would people want to put their hard-earned cash into waiting for something? You can't ignore that. You can't ignore that at all. You really can't. So maybe it's a bit of a punt, but they're doing major things on AI, which is a thing of the future. And, BP, I think another thing, BP spent, I don't know, this is hypothetical. I think I'm right. I'm not sure. But BP were looking at redeveloping all their pumping stations worldwide. I don't know if it's worldwide. I think it was worldwide. Had £1 billion budget to do that, and they've already spent 100 million on the Tesla charger innovation and technology. So there's value in it somewhere. So yeah, love him or hate him, I think the company is going in the right way.
Yeah, I mean the chart, like I said a bunch of times, I'm a chart guy. The chart is setting up now. It's got a little bit of work to do, but it's not far off. It's not far off becoming a massive signal. So I wouldn't be surprised. I would not at all be surprised if it happens this week.
No, it's a bit of a punt for us, but from my stocks and shares point of portfolio, they're the heavy one.
Yeah,
I've got more money in them than I have in the others.
Right.
So,
do you own any Bitcoin miners, CPM?
No, but I've actually got on my TradingView account, I've got on my wish list Marathon and Riot.
Yeah.
And I can't switch channels but on my screen, but I've noticed that I think it's Marathon and doing better than Riot at the moment. Is that right?
I'm not entirely sure, to be honest. I don't pay attention to the exact percentages, but
and
I hold both. I hold both.
Yeah, I've started in my stupid, naive, silly one lines. Started to draw my squiggles on my charts for those two.
Yeah.
And it's difficult for me really because I haven't got endless amounts of money.
Yeah.
I try to be very shrewd with what I'm doing, and I have to amalgamate it into, it's a great conversation actually. I have to amalgamate it into my bigger picture of what I'm trying to achieve. And if you hadn't have thrown that curveball in Friday, then I'm maybe thinking about doing something because it makes sense from a technical point of view. Marathon and Riot looks really cool to get into now.
Yeah.
But of course, you've thrown that curveball in with silver and gold. And
yeah. Well, to be fair, mate, I didn't throw the curveball. The market did, right?
Yeah, I know that. Yeah, but you just brought.
I just pointed it out and said, "Oh,
exactly.
look here, right?"
Exactly. So I've got to work out. I don't like saying too much online, dude, to be fair.
Yeah.
I've got a portion, my next cash investment proportion of my portfolio, I'm really torn now about how I proportionate that cash to get the best return. So, yeah, I've got my eye on it, mate. It's on my chart system, and it's trying to
Nice.
work out how much, what my it goes. This whole video is absolutely fantastic. It's what I'm trying to achieve,
Yeah.
and how I proportion out that there's definitely 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, probably 7. I've got 7 investments that I'm pretty stable on.
Yeah.
That I know what I'm doing with, but I've still got. I'm reluctant to say. I've still got a. This way to say it. What many people would say a considerable amount of money that I want to put into stuff. So I've got to be very careful indeed.
Yeah.
Yeah, it makes
Yep.
me emotional to think about it because I don't want to talk about it too much. But
Yeah, I understand.
But the emotion means that I'm actually paying attention more than anything. So.
Yep, makes sense, mate. Makes sense.
But yes, I've got my eye on it, dude. And yeah, they're sitting there and I keep looking at them every day and I've watched them every day for the last week.
Yeah. Do you know, it's funny, CPM, right? Like I have a SIP, that's my pension, right?
Yes, me too.
I don't know if I mentioned this to you before, but the only reason I've got it is from years and years and years ago when I used to work for Big Pharma. I had a what do you call it? A corporate pension or whatever.
Sure. Yeah.
And then when I left, I had 2 choices basically. I had choice 1 was leave it there, and they were getting 6% a year on average, right? Or pull it into a SIP and trade it myself.
Yeah.
But I had no real intention of continuing to pay into it.
Sure.
So I was like, all right, let's put it in a SIP and then I'll just trade it, right? That was my thought process. But I tell you what's so funny about it, right? This year, it's up about 120 something percent.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And that is basically from me being degenerate and just putting it all in Bitcoin miners.
Yeah.
But it's funny because they email me every couple of weeks to say, dear Mr. Camel, you are not sufficiently diversified. Like, please, can you take less risk?
Yeah.
And I keep thinking to myself, but you might be right about me not being very diversified or whatever.
Sure.
But they were getting me 6% a year before, and now I'm up 120 something percent. So I'm kind of like, exactly. Leave me alone. Right? And yeah, I know they don't want me to be all in Bitcoin miners, but it's just pretty funny that, like I say, they're obviously keeping an eye on my account, and for some reason they seem incentivized for me to make less money.
Well, this is the age of this is the age of where we are now, Camel, isn't it? We are in a position where old school institutional values of you go out, you go and work, we'll take care of you, we'll do what we need, we'll do the best for your interest. Now, until you start educating yourself, you start to work out, well, are you doing what's best for my interest? Now I know. And it goes back to that great saying of yours, once you know, you can't not know.
Yep.
You just can't.
Yep.
And you've either got to put some faith into your knowledge and expertise. Now I've got it, and this is really funny, really, because I've got a ton of faith in my plumbing and heating. After 42 years, I think I should have, but I don't take it for granted.
Yeah.
But I've got a lot of faith in what I know, and I'm still learning. And now I'm beginning at the very early stages of having a bit of faith in my investment knowledge, very naively. But I'm beginning to have a bit of faith, and I'm beginning to query, have you really, has someone really got my best interest at heart? Or possibly, could I possibly have my own best interest at heart? Now I've educated myself a bit, and I'm going to move it on.
Yeah, fine with me, mate.
It's powerful stuff. and it just goes to show where we are in
Yeah.
society and
Yeah.
where the majority of us are. And this goes back, here we go, conspiracy again. This goes back into that whole go to school, told what you need to tell, go out there, get on the hamster wheel, do whatever. There will always
Yep.
be people to do the best for you
Yep.
in the circumstances. But
Yep.
Jesus Christ, mate. Is it? Is it the best? You know, and I don't knock it because everyone's got to earn money and everyone's got to do a job. But when things get tight and things get squeezed and things get, you know, I've always said to my wife whenever we're talking, I said, yeah, take away the money. And that's when you find out who has got your best interest at heart.
Yep.
And then you want to know that you've educated enough to recognize it.
Yeah.
It's amazing. It's dude, I love your channel. It's just come to my life at the best time ever.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it.
Oh, it has, you know, and I hope that doesn't mean to say, like, when I say that, it doesn't mean to say you've got to reach 58 before you sort of recognize whatever. No, it's recognize it at whatever age, you know.
Yeah.
Doesn't
Yeah.
matter. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. That was all from Fed and government rate cuts. Do you realize that?
Yeah. Yeah, I do. Yeah.
How did we get there?
Oh, I don't know. It's one of those things, isn't
Yeah.
it?
All right, dude. Please jump in, mate. If you want to ask me anything, just go for it. But I know we're sort of cracking on with time. This is always going to be a part 4, isn't it? And there'll always be a part 5.
Yeah, and then a
There'll always
5
be
and a 6
part
and a
6,
7. Yeah,
whatever.
it is what it is. It is
It's
what it
lovely.
is.
I'll tell you what, dude. This is for me. If these are the only things that I do, then that's just because that will mean everything. These interactions, because I know a lot of people will listen to this.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of people will sit there and just resonate with certain aspects of it.
Yeah.
And I do hope that it makes a difference.
I'm sure it does. If anyone's, do you know what I mean? Like, it ultimately comes down to an individual, right? An individual will decide whether they want to watch 10 minutes of YouTube and then make their own conclusions, or certain people will decide, oh, you know what, I'm gonna devote at least an hour to 2 hours a day of study. Each to their own, right? People have different ways of, and different energy levels pertaining to how much they want to learn. But the information's there, and it's there multiple times as well, right? Like there's a bunch of different channels that all teach you the same stuff. Ultimately, I think it's down to the individual. If the individual wants to do well, then they'll do well, right?
Yeah, for sure. Okay, let's kill off the last quarter of an hour or so.
Yeah, sure.
Do you think in the next decade we're going to have a credit crisis, ultimately ending in a reset?
Do I think? I mean, my expectation is that we're going to get a credit event by Q1 or Q2 of next year. That's my expectation. But remember, CPM, like, I'm open to being proven wrong.
Yeah.
So whilst that's my expectation, that does not mean that is guaranteed. Far from it, in fact. The way I see it is the BTFP, right? The Bank Term Funding Program, which is basically just a QE in disguise. That ends in March.
Yeah.
Now, one of a few things could happen, right? Either we end up in this situation where they say, okay, that's the end of BTFP and the banks collapse, right? Then it's going to be financial Armageddon. Right? But there's a good chance that they say, well, it was supposed to end in March, but we'll extend it by 6 months or 12 months or 18 months, right? Who knows? So they can kick this can down the road for as long as they decide. If they decide to do that, then nothing really changes. However, if they decide, well, the loan program ends in March and we want our money back, then we're going to see Armageddon, right? Then we're going to see banks collapse. Then we're going to see people get stolen from, you know, your average Joe that saves in the bank. Their money's going to get stolen. So it could be really bad, or it might not, right? There's no real way of knowing. all you can really do is have a plan for both outcomes and take it from there.
Sure.
I do think that we can see this pause in rates continue until January, February, March, maybe.
Yeah.
But then after that, I think they're going to have to start cutting aggressively. Given the rate at which they raise the interest rates, it only seems reasonable to me that they will start to cut in the same level of aggression on the way down.
Yeah.
And historically speaking, and this is not a prediction, this is just me saying, historically speaking, whenever they cut rates aggressively, markets do not do well. Risk assets like the stock market does not do well.
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting. Other than that, it's a one day at a time as always, right? It's a one day at a time as always. If the charts are going to break out, then we'll take the longs. And if they're going to roll over, then we sit on the sides and be patient, right? Same old, same old.
Right. It comes back to that simplicity, doesn't it?
It does. It does. And the simplicity is not necessarily a reflection of a lack of knowledge. Simplicity is more of a representation of wisdom, I think, right?
Oh, 100. Yeah. Dude, 100%. It's as soon as you neutralize, I love to call it, as soon as I neutralize myself from all emotion and just look at data and what's presented on my, I don't know, what is it, 18 inches by 14-inch screen, which is data projected onto that screen. As soon as that's with no emotion, it's simple.
Yeah.
It is so simple, it's ridiculous.
Yep.
It's either that information is totally being projected onto my screen for me to make some crazy decisions, but I don't think there's anyone out there that's got my best interests at heart.
Yeah.
I think it's just data. That's data. It's just simple data.
Yeah.
Or I'm just gonna not believe it. It's and that's what I love about your channel. It's simple. Keep it simple.
Yeah.
So simple.
It's simple, but it's only become simple over years and years of getting rid of the noise, right?
Yeah.
It started life as a very complicated channel and a very complicated process.
Yeah.
And over time we shed more and more and more stuff and just end up with a bare bones.
100%, dude. 100%. There was something. Oh God, while you was talking, I wanted to just ask you something. God, man. What was it? This is where like whiskey doesn't do itself much justice. It starts to fuck about with your mind. Plus, I want to go to the toilet again. Well, I need to go, Lou. Hang on, mate.
So do I, mate. So do I. That's perfect. That's perfect.
Pause it.